tremors never go away. I twitch, I fit, I starve, but the tremors never go away. Fits and starts, strike up again. Something's wrong in my brain. The weights are wrong, don't communicate. I twitch, I tremble, I twitch, I tremble. I twitch, I tremor.
The Lord Ganesh with upwards famish won't extinguish flames meant to keep warm. Reduce birth lyrics won't slap stick manage ropes distribute famished. Feed water through mouth excuse prominently, infinitely, apparently visible. Like Cardi's parked, the discarded parklets, a bloom soon. Washing etiquette, robes slip off scintillating, and it won't matter when it's done. Pebbling Prozac, penultimate, and it looks inevitable. Excuses are left best not worst. It's another song with no hook, and it is a chorus called art, but it's part of us. Pork chop load, board shot low, got molly by the load, got folly in my bones, got holly in my room. Got post smack dratted when I wake up batted, and then dated, duly related. What makes it is flipping, I flip tricks. Not the favour, but in the mix. Evicted, birded, hand superseded, depleted, got a wild card. An infringement of our rights, sometimes in our lives. Apparently we got cold. It was inherently in us. It's really dark under the dark light. I really wanted to let you know it's okay, but we all aware of things we should not say. But we all aware of things we should not say. I really wanted to let you know it's okay, but we're all aware of things we should not say. We all aware of things we should not say. Ganesh with upwards famish won't extinguish flames not to keep warm. Use birth lyrics won't slapstick manage roads distributed famished. Feed water through mouth excuse prominently, infinitely, apparently visible. Like Cardi's parked and discarded parklets, a plume soon. Washing room etiquette robes live scintillating, and it won't matter when it's done. Pebbling Prozac penultimate, and looks inevitable. Excuses are best not worst. Pork chop load, got molly by the load, got holly in my bones, got holly in my room. Got post map, pipe grounded, when I wake up batted, and the dated duly related. What makes it is flippant. I flip tricks, not the favour but in the mix. Evicted, bird in hand, superseded, depleted, got a wild card. An infringement of our rights, sometimes in our life. It's apparently we got cold. It's dark under the dark light. I really wanted to let you know it's okay, but be well aware of things we should not say. But be all aware of things we should not say. I really wanted to let you know it's okay, but be all aware of things we should not say. Be all aware of things we should not say.
So that was the song Twitch from my new album Lost, and that features my friend Babar Luck. There's lots of guests on the album Lost, and Babar is one of them. Thank you so much, Babar, for doing that, and thank you to all the guests. I won't name them all, there's so many of them. There's 17 guests appearances on this record, Lost. It's available from my website, timwholehouse.com. It's also available from Werecats, and all the money, not just the profits, all the money goes to help two mental health charities, Brain Aid, run by my friend Krämer in the US, and IMPH, run by my friend Aby, and a bunch of volunteers down in Medway. I'll put the links up to them. I'll also put links up to other great mental health charities, because we need to work together on this. And this was an issue that I found very important. Personally, I'm bipolar, so when I got diagnosed as bipolar, it made a lot of sense to me, and music has been a real help. So this whole thing is basically to give back. Now, I put a call out to ask some friends, musicians and some friends, about chatting with me about mental health issues. If you're triggered by some of this discussions, I won't be offended if you turn off, but if it raises some questions you would like to ask, I'll be available in the comments and on personal messages if you don't want to publicly talk about it. Thank you so much to everybody who's so bravely come forward and discussed a lot of interesting issues. There's a lot of information in here. Any questions, please feel free to let me know. If I can help in any way or put you in the right direction. Thank you so much to everybody who's already bought Lost. If you haven't bought Lost, please do. I'm so proud of this record. First time I've ever made an electronic record. It's kind of trip hop, downbeat, down tempo stuff, I guess. All the songs are about mental health issues, so it felt right to then have that as where all the money went from it. So, as I say, all the money, myself and Ian from aaahh Records both put money together to press this, and your money will go directly to the charities. Thank you so much for all your support. Thank you for watching this. If anything comes up that you think, oh, I'd like to know a little bit more about this, please let me know. And enjoy the conversations. Some are more light-hearted than others, some are a lot more serious. There's also a video at the end, which is my new video that I've made for the song Lost, which is the title track from the album. Thank you so much. Be excellent to each other, and I'll speak to you again at the end. Hi, so this is Aby. Aby is an amazing person. I have so much time for Aby. Not only does she sing on 3 of the songs on the record Lost, Aby also painted the artwork for the front cover. Very brilliant painting. I'm going to hang it up when I've got the studio finished. Thank you so much for that. But also Aby runs, and it's IMP, is it pronounced?
For short, it's Improving Mental Health Provision, CIC. Yeah.
So is one of the people that runs that organisation, which is one of the charities we're looking to help with Lost. And so I'd love to know a little bit more about IMP and also about your own dealings with mental health issues, both personally and impersonally, if you'd like to fire away.
Yeah, sure. How long should I waffle for?
As long as you want. Take your time.
That's a dangerous proposition. It was started by myself and several other people. We all had some difficult experiences with trying to access mental health services or trying to support other people to access mental health services. There wasn't a great deal on offer locally, apart from sort of NHS services. I had previously been working for a local-ish branch of a very well-known mental health charity, and without going into it, I had a very poor experience, both in their treatment of employees, particularly around their own mental health issues, and in the treatment of the visitors. There was a lot we didn't see eye to eye on. I left, I felt it would be energy better spent setting up something positive rather than going through a whole dossier of issues with them, with the national organization. And so we launched initially some activities and some drop-in services in the Heart of the Community space in Chatham, which is run by Nucleus Arts, who kindly gave us use of the space for quite a long time, and indeed have recently offered us space again. and been very supportive in other ways. It's an arts organization locally that very much is there to support people who have an interest in the arts, practice the arts in some way, and are affected by mental health issues in one way or another. We ended up running some overnight crisis support and drop-in sessions under the police commissioner's funding for mental health and policing. So the idea was to have an alternative to blue light services should they not be something required, or to at least provide some kind of an informal triage and try to de-escalate and try to provide a little bit of a buffer should somebody need kind of proper out of hours services. That continued right up to lockdown, and hopefully we'll be commencing again before too long.
Right. So you have your own space now, don't you? Is that right?
Well, there's a lot in between. Ashdown Medway Accommodation Trust, or AMAT, very kindly initially gave us the space to use for the overnight crisis support. There wasn't really anyone else in the area who was willing to have people just dropping off the street with what could be quite significant mental health issues and parallel issues from 10 at night to 4 in the morning on Friday and Saturday nights. It just didn't really appeal to many venues, and they were incredibly supportive. We ended up expanding to do some office hours there for support and signposting and doing some joint work with the organisation. They support people who are experiencing homelessness. It's supported accommodation for that purpose. And it came under new management almost immediately before us starting to deliver from their premises. So we had a chance to really develop some good practices together, and they were incredibly helpful and supportive to us and continue to be. Their work expanded to provide a safe place to stay provision for people who were street homeless, where they could come in for a few nights, be triaged, receive support, and hopefully be placed into, if not accommodation there, accommodation elsewhere, but at least be off the streets and indoors and getting some key working immediately. And they required the space, of course. So we took space with the Dragon Co-working Hub locally, who again have been fantastic. With with lockdown and everything and everything that's happened in 2020,
It's been crazy.
It's been a strange year. So we did not manage to get the funding applications through during that time period to retain the office space. However, we're now hoping to be working in that space with another organisation, so hopefully we'll be able to announce something very, very positive soon, and we're starting to commence services again. Some of our activity groups, Media Club is up and running, our arts and crafts will start, we'll be able to do one-to-one support and signposting alongside that and start building up again as on a time scale and in a manner that's safe in the current climate with the pandemic. We're a non-hierarchical organization, so we've always operated without there being a boss or someone in charge or someone whose views are valued over someone else's. Everybody involved really has their own mental health issues. For some of us, it's quite significant. A lot of the team are people who were written off as being unemployable, and actually they're providing the best support for others with mental health issues that you'd hope to see. We're very lucky with the people on board. Many of them were people who came to us for support initially and became involved on the team. We have always been very open to anyone from any circumstance. we've always worked with people who may also be experiencing homelessness, or also have substance issues, or also have forensic history, or the victim of abuse, people who are seeking asylum. There are so many parallel factors that, of course, worsen any underlying mental health issues, or can be a catalyst in and of themselves. So, what people are dealing with can't even begin to be sorted until some of those issues are addressed. So we've always made an effort to work very closely and collaboratively with organizations who specialize in those areas. And we've ended up working with some of the most complex issues locally, which makes sense, as many of our team share those sort of issues.
I was going to ask you about
work
that.
by a lot of people's kind of structural figuring, but it does to a large degree.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that actually. Was that do you find sort of having we've spoken about this in the past, having sort of suffered from mental health issues yourself, find it in a better standing to be able to sort of empathize with people?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people are quite happy to deal with somebody who is suffering from depression or anxiety. There are things that almost everybody has a point of reference for, even if they're not currently experiencing it, or even if they've never experienced it to the degree that it completely disrupts their life. At least they have some understanding of what it feels like to experience those things. When somebody is experiencing something like psychosis, or a complex personality disorder, that is something that the great majority of people don't have a point of reference for, and therefore have a fear around. And it becomes quite difficult to form rapport in those cases. I mean, the one thing we have to be careful of is keeping some level of, although we're very informal, still acting in a professional manner. We constantly have to remind ourselves and have safeguarding and everything in place, just to ensure we're delivering appropriate services, because it is empathy and having shared experience allows perhaps a more intense way of working, more informal way of working that is really positive, but we need to make sure that person is still getting a professional service, which has been our main challenge. But we, as a team, we are perhaps a more, perhaps we have a greater threshold for some of the chaos that can unfold. We have seen a lot of people who have been blacklisted from other services or deemed too complex, and we're not obviously more we're not more qualified than those services, in a formal sense, but there is perhaps a little bit more shared experience and understanding, which helps.
I think so. I think it's sort of to be able to empathize and not be right. And like you say, the more severe cases, personal experience. I've known a couple of people with schizophrenia, and it was treating them like a human being and not being like either freaking out when they were having, their moment. Just treating them like a human being helped a lot, and one of the people actually said, "Thank you so much for just not being freaked out by this and just treating me like a normal human being." That really meant a lot to them, and I think that's a big part of it. And I think sometimes in the professional mental health services, we've had one person on who's actually said, like, the guy just talked down to him like he was a 5-year-old. And I think that it's like, the guy got all the qualifications in the world, but just, treating people like a human being. Don't talk to them like they're 5. They're still, human beings, adults. And
this is a real difficulty with professionals across the board. There's this idea that somebody who's experiencing acute psychosis is completely illogical, completely irrational, completely incapable of useful thought. And it could not be further from the truth. Somebody can be in a completely psychotic state where they are clearly seeing and hearing things that aren't there for other people, and they know what's going on. Even if they have that period of time that they're drawn into the narrative their brain is giving them, it is still possible to reason with someone at that point. I mean, what professionals will stick with is being very careful to not either confirm or dispute what somebody is saying if they're experiencing psychosis. You just need to make them understand they're safe and they're not being judged. But in my experience, the vast majority of the time, the vast majority of people who have a psychotic illness or a psychotic condition are perfectly reasonable and rational. They may experience reality differently, but they do have a point of reference for everyone else, and there is plenty of crossover where communication can happen. I mean, to be honest, almost all of our team have some sort of psychotic illness or a personality disorder. We have, I'd say over half of our team have been diagnosed with schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder. And that's half of our central functioning team. That's not sort of people who come and help a little bit around their issues, and when they can, that is people who keep it going, who are absolutely vital to the functioning and the ongoing existence of the organization. And obviously some of us have times that we are struggling more than others, and others step up and cover that period of time, and it works. And we all have an agreement if somebody is struggling and either not very self-aware at that particular time, to understand that they are, or they're trying to push through anyway out of diligence. We have some structures and agreements in place to have that conversation with each other and to provide support to each other and ensure nobody's getting burnt out or trying to do things when they're too ill to do them, however, but also not being excluded, minimized, or
right. So working as a team. The next question I was going to really ask you was, we've mentioned like the media club and the arts and crafts, and I mean, me personally, like from my side of things, I found like doing music really helps. It's very therapeutic to me. Do you find
Absolutely.
like putting the creative wedge in there as something can be really healing, sort of concentrating somebody's mind on creating something?
Absolutely. I mean, the shift of focus in and of itself is vital. When somebody's head is just too full of everything that's going on, it is a way of turning a little bit of that off, just so that person can exist in that moment and get themselves back and interact, and it's incredibly useful. Obviously, as we gather some momentum again, music will figure strongly. We've had music activities in the past. We will again. The arts group very much make an effort to. There's been a history of these kind of quite insulting arts and crafts group for people with mental health issues. It's sort of these activities that wouldn't be out of place in a kindergarten being offered to people who might be mental level intelligence and or may actually be professional artists, and it's it means well, but there are issues.
Yeah.
The guys who run that have very much put it in place that there, you know, it's a social thing. It's a mutual support thing, but there is room for people to work to their full potential. But we also have some people who, you know, don't perhaps have are not coming with as many creative skills and perhaps want to do something a little bit more simple, and that's fine as well. And we always make sure there's ability to do that, and there's no, you know, kind of disparity in that. We don't have to kind of settle in one sort of common denominator. I think they do a fantastic job with that, and the media club is run much the same way. And again, there's some new members of the team there who initially came to us for crisis support and dealing with issues like homelessness and forensic history and substance issues, who are now giving enormous amounts to other people, you know, with their time and their guidance and their support and planning and delivering activities. It's amazing to see.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your time. Seriously, that's amazing. And keep up the good work. That is incredible what you guys are doing. I hope in some small way that Lost can help, like with a little bit of funding for you to help keep running this awesome thing that you all do.
I mean, to be honest, it helps enormously at the moment, where we're just getting our feet under us again. And I mean, what expenses we have will be really small. It'll be more supplies for the activity groups. It'll be hand gel to keep everybody safe. You know, it'll be those sort of things that, you know, are vital to keep things going. And, you know, anything that comes in will make that happen. What to us, what is really, really important is that what you and the other musicians who've been involved at the album have done is to bring very personal but very universal issues to the forefront, express them in a very creative manner and put them out there for people to interact with, and made it so clear that it's in support of us and the fantastic organization in the States.
Yes, Brain Aid in the States. I'm hoping also that this launch with the chats and everything is going to provide, you know, if anybody wants to talk to me in the comments, obviously this will be live streaming, but it's not live streaming now. This is pre-recorded, and I'll be there to chat to people, and if they need to DM me and stuff. You seem to have gone very dark somehow. The lights have gone off, I think.
Yeah, there were fish tank lights that just turned themselves off for the night. So.
Oh dear. So we'll call that a wrap. Thank you so much, Aby. Also check out Aby's amazing band, Luna Lacuna. I'm a big fan of your band. I think your band are fantastic. Sort of like gothic grunge, I guess, is the easiest description. Fantastic band, and I've worked with Aby not only on this record but on previous records. I love working with you. I love what you do creatively, but also you're an amazing person. You're really genuinely an incredible human being, Aby, and I know you don't do it for the praise. You just want to help people, and what you've set up with IMP is amazing. I hope we can help in a little way with the album sales and stuff, and just give you what we can and help, as you say, hand gel or whatever we can provide. And thank you so much. You're amazing. Keep doing what you do. Cheers.
Tim, thank you so much for doing this for both organizations and for being so frank with your own personal things in the creation of the album. It's I mean, we've been friends for a while now, but it's certainly been a way for me to gain a little bit more insight. I know we've had a lot of open discussions. I mean, again, I would like to say that in being involved in the organization and in this, I certainly am open in having my own issues. I've ADHD and schizoaffective disorder, as well as some weird personality stuff. I should be a psycho. I try not to be.
No,
But
you're a fantastic person, Aby. I'm
it's
so pleased I know you.
at the end of the day, I do think, you know, almost everybody has some kind of mental health issue they deal with at some point. All
True.
of these labels are useful in a clinical sense. It's good to have a point of reference, but I like to highlight the positive side. While there are very, very, very difficult things for people to live through, the traits that are termed a psychiatric illness or a mental health issue are themselves a positive in many ways. They tend to produce creativity, empathy, all the things that make us really human and be able to connect with others. I would argue that the issue is more with how society supports people when they're struggling with those traits than the issue being people having those traits in and of itself. It's a little bit of a off-center view, but I do think people, you know, should try to see some of the positives that come from differences in neurological structure and in behavioral patterns.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. This has been really helpful. And we'll leave it there, but thank you so much for your time and thank you so much for everything you do. You are awesome. Cheers.
Likewise, thank you so much.
Hi Tim, and everybody else, whether your name is Tim or not. My name is Steven, and I'm the founder of BrainAid, although I think my mom helps me imagine it just as much. My mom passed away in 2012, but she was my mental health hero because she, even though she had trauma and multiple diagnoses, she got up every day and fought again. So when I have had my own mental health crises, I've always thought of her. But since 1999, I've co-produced concerts and festivals in Detroit and Athens, Georgia, where I am now. And making them for charity has always made them mean more, and making a charity means even more. The goal of BrainAid is always just to make people feel not alone. My mom also introduced me to church, congregation. Since I stopped going to church, some concerts make me feel more spiritual than anything. Music and laughter, I believe, are both spiritual, just in a different way. But I wanted to thank Tim for believing in BrainAid. Sometimes when I maniacally explain BrainAid to people, not everybody gets it, but Tim gets it.
Take care of your mental health.
Everybody, it is part of your health. It's a big part of your health. Because if your mental health isn't good, you're not going to get up and take care of your mental health. Love you, Tim, and thank you for believing in me. I believe in you. Oh, and this is Cosmo. Say hi, Cosmo. Hi, Cosmo.
Hi. So for the Lost launch, I thought I'd talk to some of the artists that have been on the album Lost and kindly given their skills to it, and discuss mental health issues. Now, this one is a very special one. Ian not only is it Frank Freud? Frank Fiot, who raps on the song Trapped, but also Ian runs RL Records, the record label which I call home, and Ian's a very good friend of mine. I love Ian's bits, and he's very kindly helping me put out Lost as well, and foregoing any profits on it. It's all going to, all the money is going to the two charities, BrainAid and IMP, in Medway. So, Ian, hi.
Tim.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to be on Lost. I mean, I know we've done loads of stuff together from a like artist and label standpoint, and we did that split together under my old MC iPod name. So we have done some stuff together. But yeah, it's nice to actually be a part of something so grand as Lost, and especially with it going to help mental health charities. And I think that's something that I'm not going to speak for everyone on the album, but I'm sure all of us on the album, you know, have all had mental health issues. I mean, I myself, like, I don't really talk about it publicly. Not that I'm embarrassed, just I don't ever want it to become. I don't want people to feel differently about me when they find out that I'm severely clinically depressed and take a handful of pills every morning. But that's true, and that's who I am, and it's fine. I take pills. You know, I had very good doctors who, we got where I needed to be quite soon. But I don't really talk about it for the reason being that I don't want people to feel they have to walk on eggshells or, oh, I can't criticize him, he's mental, you know. But yeah, we are going to talk about it now, and yeah, you know, it's just the thing. I have mental health problems, and it's, you know, something I live with and I deal with, and it's fine. And I wish we could be at a stage.
Stigma is, I was going to say, I think that stigma of like people going, oh, you say you've got mental health problems, they think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Also, you know, you said you take pills, and that's absolutely fine. I think everybody has different ways of coping with it. Now, I'm bipolar myself, as I'll probably mention several times on this this little video. But I got diagnosed with it, and I was like, okay. And then we're trying to put me on Prozac, which was a big thing at the time. And I kind of saw how some people I knew that were on Prozac, it was kind of debilitating to them, and they weren't really themselves anymore when they were on it. And I just was like, no, I don't want to. I'm going to just deal with this my own way. Now, maybe that's not the best way to do it, but I have certainly had some hard times, but I found focus in certain things, like trying to, certainly since doing music for a living, pushing my energy into that and having a focus has helped. But like, how have you found like being, you know, prescribed pills and things?
Yeah, it's very much, it's different for each person. Like, I know people that have taken the same pill I'm on, which is sertraline, and it's worked for them. I know people that have tried it and it's not worked for them. Conversely, I know people that have had better luck with not taking any medication. It's, you know, there's no right or wrong answer, and you just need to do whatever works best for you. This is what works best for me. I started on a certain dose, and it went up and it went up, and I'm on reasonably quite high dose, if I'm honest. But if that's what I need, then that's what I need. And it's taking these pills every day, I feel like a normal human being. I don't feel zonked out or like a zombie. You know, I can still get happy, I can still get sad, things can upset me, you know.
Right.
So it's not like, so I have had stages, you know, a few years ago where I was basically just, everything was there, you know, it was meh. And, you know, obviously the dosage wasn't quite right, but yeah, that, you know, some people might not be able to, you know, they might not work with the medication, and that's fine. And there's no shame in trying it and it not working, and there's no shame in trying it and it working. It's very much a personal thing. And I think a lot of people who haven't necessarily experienced mental health problems, I kind of think there's a one fits all approach to things. Like with physical health, like, oh, you've broken your leg, put a cast on it. But that's not how it works with the old noggin. You know, you don't just put a cast on it.
Yeah, the brain is a complicated beast.
And it's not as easy as physical health. I mean, obviously physical health, there are, you know, what works for 90% of people might not work for you. And I know it's not strictly true that put a cast on it and it's fine, but it does seem to be, there's a lot with physical health. It's a lot easier to go straight to the right option first than there is with mental health. And, you know, things might work, they might not. And it's, I just kind of the point I'm trying to hammer home is there's no shame if a particular regimen works for you, and there's no shame if it doesn't. You know, some people don't react well to pills, some people do. You know, if it works, do it. If it doesn't work, don't do it.
Yeah, I certainly know my own personal experiences, though I'm not really a pill person. I've never been particularly into taking them anyway, apart from my miscreant youth, maybe.
Yeah.
But it was recreational. But
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's such a personal thing, and like you say, the brain is such a complicated thing, and it's not a weakness as well to seek help, and it's not a weakness I find. And it's why I talk about it so much, and why I did this album, why this is happening, is because it's not a weakness to admit you've got problems.
Yeah.
I think certainly, back in the 90s, if you admitted you had problems, you were like, oh, you're crazy or something, and
Yeah.
that has developed, and that is a good thing with the modern world right now.
Definitely. I mean, and to go back to the comparison with physical health, if you break your ankle, you don't walk on it. What are you, stupid? And like if we saw you walking down the street with like a fractured femur, some would think you were crazy. You were dumb for doing it, because we understand that needs to get fixed. So we need to feel the same way about mental health. If your leg's broken, you get it looked at and you get it fixed, and that's what you're supposed to do. So if your brain's broken, that needs to get looked at.
Yeah.
And, you need to realize that there's something there to fix or to adjust, or however you want to look at it, in the same way that would look at physical health. If you broke your hand and said, I can't play this gig tonight because I've got a broken hand, someone would say, oh, well, that makes sense because you play guitar and you can't play with a broken hand. And it should be, and I'd like to think you'd have no shame in saying that. And it should be the same, that you'd have no shame in, I can't do this because my brain's not right.
Yeah, the stigma is definitely getting destigmatized, but I do still think it's very important to kind of talk about this stuff, and I'm leaving this open for comments on the Facebook live here, but destigmatizing mental health awareness is quite important, because it can still be in some quarters seen as, like, especially maybe older people, still a bit of a, oh yeah, I don't want to show this sign of weakness about myself, or I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling down. So I think the more we talk about it, the more we kind of get it out there, the more it helps.
Yeah, but like if your leg was on fire, you wouldn't consider it a sign of weakness to put some water on it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's just been stigmatized so much over the years.
Yeah.
I mean, things like the old school lunatic asylums and mental hospitals.
The funny farm.
Yeah, all that stuff. It's like that was quite a stigmatizing thing. So.
Oh yeah, it was. The men in white coats come to take you away, put a straitjacket on you, and there is definitely still a lot of way to go. There are still people that wouldn't feel comfortable saying, look, I'm not feeling great mentally, but would still feel comfortable saying, look, I broke my leg.
Yeah.
And there are people that do still see one as shameful and one as not. And, we're still a long way to go, but we're a lot farther along than we were, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Then it was, you didn't, you just sucked it up and dealt with it, and then killed yourself eventually.
Yeah.
And then when you killed yourself,
a whole other sort of issue as well, isn't it? It's like, that's.
And the thing is, it wasn't just, oh, someone's hung himself. It wasn't, oh, they had depression. It was, oh, well, they were failing at work, or their wife left them. There was always some. It wasn't just they had a mental health problem. There had to be a reason for it.
Yeah.
It was never just, oh, he killed himself because he was sad. It was, oh, his business failed. That's what happened. And it almost and it made suicide. It kind of took suicide away from mental health and made it not a mental health issue and more just a life option. Like, your business failing, your kids hate you, your wife's left, hang yourself.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be that. We shouldn't just look at
it. Why things like I was going to say that's why things like IMP and Brain Aid and stuff are very useful things. It's like knowing that you've got someone to talk to if you are depressed, if you are suicidal, and that there's the Samaritans too, and it's like there's always somebody there for you, however bad it gets. You you might not think you've got anybody. And I've spoken, certainly since lockdown, I've been spoken to a few people who live on their own, and they're just like, oh, I'm really depressed. I just needed somebody to chat to.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, fine, let's chat.
Yeah.
Like, you know, let's. And then we might not talk about what's going wrong. We might just talk about silly stuff.
Yeah.
About, you know, what you're going to cook that night or something. But like, or a funny story or something. But it just helps, like knowing that you've got somebody there for you.
Sometimes you just need to take your mind off the fact that when it's just you and you've only got your own thoughts for company, you think about your sadness, and sometimes you just need to be distracted. And yeah, just having a mate like message you and going, "Hey man, what's up?" Like,
yeah, just remember you're not alone.
Yeah.
Kind of shut it off there, but thank you so much for sharing your experiences with me. And that's
again,
really,
thank you for having me.
And thank you for reading the album. It's really come out great. The track Trapped is definitely one of my favorites on the album. It's like gothic trap hip hop.
Yeah, it's got me and Abigail Ziering.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got me and Abigail on it, and it's a great track. An absolute pleasure to be on it. And just before I go away now, Calm Campaign Against Living Miserably. I want to give them a shout out, and also Head Above the Waves, who are a non-profit who deal with primarily young people and mental health and suicide and self-harm and things like that. So, as well as IMHP, IMP, and Brain Aid, who are amazing. Calm and Head Above the Waves also amazing. So there's options out there. There's, you know, people who can help. You know, if you need it.
So this is my friend Daniel Jones, and I know Dan through his Random Adventures promotions company. He's put me on several times. He was also a fantastic sound engineer. Thank you so much for doing this, Daniel. If you could, so basically, just sort of, if you could explain to me, like how your mental health issues and how you deal with them personally, your personal experiences, basically.
Yes. Yeah. So mine's a bit of a multi-leveled thing, really. About 12 months ago, there was a colleague at the hospital that I also work at. I also work in emergency surgery, but I've been working in the NHS for nearly 16 years now. And I had a colleague who committed suicide nearly 12 months to the day, which was a complete shock. And then about a month after that, I had a friend who was actually a mentor with sound engineering called Bob, who was waiting on a heart bypass operation. And he suddenly died of a sudden cardiac arrest whilst waiting for his operation. Then just as I started to kind of come around with that, obviously COVID has kind of hit. So my self-employed, as Tim kindly introduced myself, I'm a wedding DJ, a sound engineer, and a cycling events promoter primarily. I also kind of work a lot in AV and everything, but all three of them sources of income completely stopped overnight, with absolutely no government funding whatsoever. I got moved to the acute dialysis unit, so I was kind of taken away from my support bubble whilst at work, which I didn't mind. It was a new skill to learn, and it kind of did help keep me going during there, because it is a lot more of a robotic kind of work environment where you're kind of dictated by the machine. But shortly after I came back, once the first wave was over, I kind of had pretty much a depressive breakdown, I think is the best way to describe it, really. I wasn't diagnosed as acutely depressive, but yeah, I couldn't really face going to work. And yeah, I just felt the lowest I'd ever been before. I had CBT counselling, and I think it was probably the start of the CBT counselling which kind of opened up the massive can of worms for myself. CBT.
Could you explain CBT for us?
So, CBT is something called cognitive behavioural therapy. It's a very wide and broad spectrum. I was using it for bereavement counselling and also a bit to kind of understand myself and how I kind of tick. I'm sure Tim could probably vouch that a lot of creative people have quite a few very similar traits. So
yeah, myself, I'm bipolar, so
yeah,
it's quite
but
common.
I think there's a lot of like insecurity as well about yourself when you're a creative person, which is why we use kind of creative outlets to help kind of reaffirm ourselves as belonging, and also for constant approval with things, which is why, like, when you're working in sound engineering, when you're putting on cycling events, when you're DJing at somebody's wedding, you know, you're a kind of, or when I'm working in the NHS and I'm helping people when they're at the, you know, most vulnerable,
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
putting
you're
yourself out
constantly
there, aren't
looking
you?
for validation for yourself as a person there. So yeah, I had 5 weeks off sick, and I think I had about 9 weeks of CBT therapy. It it probably opened myself up more than I ever actually imagined, to be honest, and actually tried to figure out who I am really as a person, which is an amazing experience actually, and I'd fully recommend it to anybody.
Right.
Um, yeah, it. I could imagine for a lot of people who have CBT, especially those that write it off, it is a very invasive process. I kind of made a promise to myself that whatever question I was going to be asked, I would answer, and I would answer wholeheartedly. And
Right.
I don't think you should walk into therapy unless you're willing to make that promise to yourself, because if you lie to your therapist whilst they're trying to help you, you're not really doing anything to help yourself. It's a bit like eating a packet of Haribos whilst going to the diabetic clinic, you know, unless you're willing to actually do something about yourself and open up and admit to, you know, what you're thinking or what your moods are or what your ethics are, then
Yeah, I guess you have to be sort of to go to sort of therapy. You have to be ready to do it and willing to do it. To like anything like that in addiction or depression or whatever, you've got to be open and ready to. Right, we're going to deal with this head on. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be myself. Yeah, totally. I can see how that works.
I still have bad days to this point. I think the hardest thing, especially right now, is that Bob, who passed away, was a massive mentor for myself, and we would chat for hours, you know, even about microphones or about tapes or about recording something, or even because he'd worked in the business since the 1960s, and I wanted just a bit of a head to kind of, you know, pick, like if I had a contract issue maybe with something, you know, and like, especially right now whilst it's during COVID and your business isn't earning any money or anything, just having that kind of person to kind of talk to is a massive void that's kind of been left for myself.
Yeah, no, it's losing friends, and that is so hard. I've lost several friends myself, and it's hard not to just not have them there. I have my friend Freud, who passed away a few years ago. In fact, the song Freud on the Odd Even album is about him, and he passed away, and it was just like, just knowing that I couldn't just pop on Skype and just chat to him and be like, oh yeah, I've got a new idea because we were in a band called The Perfect Human Example together, that was a sort of transatlantic band and stuff. Just knowing that I can't just, oh, you know, I've got this idea, Freud, oh, what do you reckon, sort of thing. And it is okay to have bad days and be sad and be down. I think it's natural to not always be 100% bubbly and bouncy, and I certainly know that with my bipolar, that like there's days where I'm like, I can't be bothered, and then there's days where I'm like jumping off the walls, sort of thing. So it's okay to feel down. It's just know that you're never alone. I think is there's people around you. and you can get help. Certainly, I don't know. I've never done the Is it CBT?
CBT, yeah,
Yeah,
cognitive behavioral
CBT.
therapy.
I've heard about it, and I've had friends
Yeah,
who've done it.
like I think some people have tried to use it for things maybe like OCD traits and things like that, where I don't know if it's worked properly. Like I said, I used it on a kind of for my bereavement kind of issues, if you will, and kind of almost a bit of a like open myself up kind of tool as well. Like so I can't vouch to say that like it's going to work for everybody, but then one hammer doesn't fit all nails, really.
Yeah, yeah. It's in fact actually touched with this actually on with Ian yesterday, who actually we were discussing. He's on medication now.
I was offered antidepressants, but I kind of turned them down. But that was a conscious decision on my behalf. That the other thing with myself is, with me being a cyclist, a lot of my therapy is actually going out and going for bike rides, and is actually kind of, my fitness is kind of a big part of me. So I was only going to take an antidepressant if I didn't feel like I was making forward progress to help me do that, really.
We were discussing how the brain is such a different thing, and it's not like there's not one simple fix for each person. Somebody take pills, somebody will go for a bike ride, somebody will take CBD. Me personally, I find a very good thing is my creativity, writing songs and stuff. If I'm feeling down, if I've got insomnia, I'll work on projects and stuff. Start working, making videos and stuff. So that I think it's such a complex thing that it's not like the brain isn't like one quick fix. It isn't there.
Like you kind of described it, so like just there, you said like when you've got a bout of insomnia and you kind of recognize and acknowledge that, but rather than letting that kind of control you, you kind of use it now, and you kind of you've accepted that that's going to happen there, and I think once you're on top of your, knowing that you'll have a bad day, and then knowing that, right, well, I just need to get out, or I need a day off, or I need to book an annual leave and just have a bit of time away from work because that's making me stressed right now. That's probably the biggest tool, is just knowing yourself and what you can do either with it or actually, to kind of self-medicate yourself in that kind of respect, and it is very good once you can get yourself to that kind of point, with yourself.
It's sort of, it's there's a lot of trying to be honest with yourself, I think, and like I certainly like, and I've also discussed with Ian as well about the stigma. Now sometimes and maybe it's particularly big in men, maybe, but I'm not saying specifically in men, but people do have this, still have this stigma with mental illness, where they enclose themselves, they see it as a weakness, and opening up is actually such a big thing. It sometimes it can let the floodgates out and just like, and now I feel so much better. It's like you can feel so much better just chatting to a friend about this sort of stuff. It's just like, that just felt better.
Pretending that you're absolutely fine and that you're this big macho person, that nothing upsets you and all that. And it's a bit like at work, even to this day, like when we have our morning huddle, because it's not just myself at the hospital that, there is a waiting list for CBT at the hospital. It's not a great environment to be working in right now, as you could probably imagine. And once everybody's been allocated, we do actually check in with everybody that they're absolutely fine to kind of be working where they're working, or, because there are some more challenging bits about our unit compared to other bits. So, and we do make sure we check in and that everybody's absolutely fine. And I think it is that acknowledgement that everybody's not superhuman, not super strong, and that we do have wobbly days, as I call them.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for doing this, Dan, and thank you for opening up and chatting to me. It's been really, really informative and very, very helpful. Thanks so much, man. I'm gonna stop.
Welcome. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Lucrezia very kindly gave some artwork to the Lost album. She did the back sleeve. It's a beautiful, beautiful picture. Thank you so much for that. And she's also provided vocals on the song Heart and did a fantastic job. Really, really good. Great, very professional job. Thank you very much. And I know Vincent from being a brilliant musician, wonderful guy, and one of my best tour mates ever. So that's an introduction to them both.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you for being on this. So basically, I just wanted to ask you about sort of what your experience is with mental health, if you had any mental health issues, and how you've dealt with them. If there's anything you're not comfortable saying, don't have to say it, but yeah, feel free to sort of open up and let us know what you think. So I'll leave the floor to you guys.
All right.
Thanks.
Who bites the bullet? Me? You?
You. I'm not a good talker.
Okay. I sometimes talk too much, so well, yeah. Issues I've had was alcoholism being one of them. And how I dealt with that at first was just drinking more and more and more. And one day just reaching out to some mates and quitting, because you look in the mirror and you don't recognize yourself anymore. And then you're like, whoa, now it's about time to do something.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really correlate sort of addiction with mental health issues, and it is a problem, and you can quite often just drink to sort of try and get over it or take drugs, whatever, and it is a problem, totally. Yeah, sorry, Phil.
Don't be sorry. It's nice being open about that, and no, it's been good. And then you kind of have the room then to self-improve and really work on those issues if you just stop the destructive behavior, which of course is easier said than done, just a habit really. But yeah, once you do, it's a very rewarding thing.
Yeah, I think the admitting you have a problem is the first step with it, and especially is to, once you admit it with yourself, then that's the big step.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, my friend Derek, he said the first thing to do is to put that pint down.
Yeah,
that's how he said it, and I totally agree. Yeah, it's from within, but there are people there to support you as well, knowing that people new friends are there to help you, and
exactly. It's always very helpful. Even if you're a bit of an introvert like me, it's and you probably wouldn't call upon those friends to help you. It's good to know that they're there, regardless of the fact that you would ask them for help or whatever. You know they're there, and that's sometimes enough.
It's even a surprise sometimes, because you don't want to necessarily in those phases speak to somebody because you don't want to be a burden. It's like those thoughts that come all the time that you're a burden, which is obviously not true, because for my friends I would be there too. And then it's like a big surprise how many people are actually there to help you. And really just a stupid thought and stupid feeling that kind of pushes you down to not reach out.
Yeah.
But when you then finally do, you notice how many people are actually at your back, and
that's exactly it. Yeah, that's you're not alone in this, and your pride can sometimes get in the way. Totally. Yeah, I've been too proud in the past to sort of ask for help myself. So yeah, I know that feeling.
But I think that's also the thing with people who usually are the ones who help. they have a very hard time accepting help.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it is not their role, and B, they feel uncomfortable with it because they give rather than take. But I think you need to have a sort of a balance, and that helps with mental health too. Like have a balance in the way you deal with things. And
Yeah, it's sort of knowing that, you know, I always say I'm, you know, there for my friends whenever they need me, but
Yeah.
also, yeah, knowing that I can get in touch with my friends when I have a problem myself. And I certainly know that the Tourette Boys, the fantastic three guys that are in that band, who I'm very lucky to play with now and then. When I was having some problems, we're all on the Skype and chatting to me and stuff. So it was really, really cool that they were there for me and just like, hey, let's chat about some stuff. They're really awesome dudes. And your good selves as well have been very, very good to me. So yeah, it works both ways. Don't be a stranger, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. And it helps that you're not an absolute cunt, so it's like
Yes. Oh, I try not to be. That's yeah.
no. All good, man.
Yeah. Try not to be. It's like the Menzinger song goes, I don't want to be an asshole anymore.
Yeah, but great song, great tune. But
Yeah.
there's people who are just like, it's kind of hard to empathize with them because they're just so destructive to their environment and themselves. But still, you have to try because you want most people in this world to have a good time.
Yeah, there's you'd like to hope that there's good in everybody. Yeah. Always like to hope that there's good in everybody. So yeah.
What about like mental health? The big thing to me was basically starting to acknowledge myself and my own boundaries. Because I would probably in a destructive way towards myself and my environment try to be someone I wasn't or couldn't be, and I would lie about things just to make appearances basically. But then once you come to peace with who you are, or at least start working on yourself and accept that it's okay to feel shit for a while and whatever, it's life after all.
Yeah, not everything's going to be smell of roses come up brilliant, is it?
Exactly. But then when you get to the space where you can just accept yourself for what it is and the state that you're in, and have like healthy boundaries, then you can also be more focusing on yourself and more constructive in the way you deal with things. And then you don't, you get selective about the people you surround yourself with, because there is people in this world who unfortunately only have a negative impact on your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whatever, and those people life just gets easier if you don't try to be there for them or change them or whatever. You can just accept them for what they are and let them be.
Yeah. I mean, every human is different. That's what's brilliant about being a human being, is like every human being has a unique experience. No one person. That is pretty cool. I always that's. But at the same time, you know, I always see myself as a work in progress. I keep sort of working on it a little bit more, and try to be a better person each day. But also knowing that, you know, I've got friends out there, and it's really great, like, to know that there's so many awesome people that I can call my friend in the world. So yeah, I guess that sort of support mechanism is useful, but also, you know, just keep working on yourself. You know, you just, nobody's perfect, and nobody's perfect. Yeah. So thank you so much, both of you, for doing this. This has been absolutely excellent. It's very helpful. This is MCG from Scotland. I met you at Book Your Own Fest in Dundee with our mutual friend Babar Luck. Barbar's actually on the album. Did a fantastic job on a couple of songs, and we've we've chatted, we've been in touch since Book Your Own Fest, and just like to get your thoughts on some mental health issues and your personal experiences. So, far away.
Well, thanks, Tim. Thank you very much for having me. I just want to say a big love to all the people out there that are dealing with MH problems, whatever you're at, and thank you. What can I say? We met in Dundee. We had a really great time. You didn't know I had mental health problems at that point. I didn't know you were bipolar.
No.
And we've come together and we've kind of reached out. And yeah, I've had mental health problems from being young. Now, I don't want to moan. I don't want to sit here and go, but my story is I had a bit of an abusive stepfather, bullied at school, all that. When I was about 15, I realised that I could do a bit on the microphone. I done stuff. I ran away from home at 17. I went around Europe for the bag and nothing else. I ended up in Sheffield, walked into a studio in Sheffield pretending that I was from New York City and I was an American rapper, but I wasn't really. I was from Scotland. Ended up with 3 record deals. It all fell apart. I'm still an MC. I'm still a rapper. I've got this out, but it doesn't matter. My mental health, yeah, I've had a lot of stuff going on in my life. 4 years ago, I'm sorry to say, I jumped off a bridge in the city of Aberdeen where I live. I woke up in hospital, my mother holding my hand and people from my church there, and it was like, yeah, it was the most selfish thing I'd done. But at that point in my life, I was a mess. I don't want to swear, I don't like swearing, but I was fucked up. I came out of hospital and my mum moved me out of my flat, stayed with her for 7 months. I had a lot of injuries. I got my little flat where I'm now. And I still do stuff, as you know, but I've had a lot of issues with, I don't like to talk about this bug, but I've had a lot of issues with the whole thing, the isolation, the anxiety, the being on my own. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the being on your own thing, especially, I think has amplified a lot of mental health issues, people who are stuck on their own. And I think the thing to remember if you are on your own is that you're not alone. Your friends, there are people on the other end, not only, you know, your friends, but also, you know, people there to listen, like Calm, Head Above the Waves,
Brilliant,
who are one of the charities, Brain Aid, the Samaritans. All these people are there. You're never alone. There's always somebody there.
That's the thing. But I have a friend in Sheffield. He's 60 and he's a wonderful human being. He has a group for men, and he's told me that men, in particular, find it very difficult to reach out to say that I have problems. I have mental health problems. I need help. I need someone just to listen, just to give me 5 minutes of time, you know. And
what's his name and what's the name of the charity? Sorry.
His name's Tony Clabby. If you Facebook him, he'll get in touch with you. It's an online group, and he does a lot of stuff. And it's kind of, in his opinion, men are they find it difficult more than women. You know, I don't know. I'm a rapper. I'm an MC. I talk too much, but there are people out there struggling. There's people out there on their own. There's people out there dealing with this with no one to talk to. And I don't care who you are or what you do. You, the Samaritans, all these organizations that you know and work with are great people. There's a lot of great people that care, but sometimes it's really hard. You know, do you find that? I know you're bipolar, but what's your thoughts on reaching out, if you know what I mean?
Reaching out, yeah. I mean, personally, I'm always, I certainly, like, once I got diagnosed, I think it was easier for me to talk about it. Before, I didn't really know what was happening, why I just, you know, didn't want to get out of bed and things like that, why I felt so down. But it was I think I've always been,
have you ever had suicidal thoughts yourself?
Yeah. And it's I think it's sort of the stigmatism, the sort of, oh, it's a sign of weakness, which is partly what I'm trying to sort of get across, and it was brought up in another one of the chats was the stigmatism of, you know, seen as a sign of weakness to sort of say you have mental health issues, and it shouldn't be.
No. I really think, when I came out of the hospital, I was at my mum's for 7 months. I had a lot of injuries, things to, you know. And I'm not going on, I'm not saying ooh, but my mum tried to get me help from the psychiatric community. They wouldn't see me. She persevered, and she eventually got me a doctor. I went to see him in the village. Very intelligent man, knows his stuff. I sat down, and he was sat at the table. He looked at me with a big smile like this. Hello, Barry. How are you? I was like, how am I? I tried to kill myself. What are you on about? And it was kind of weird. It kind of freaked me out because I'd been in hospital once before for trying to kill myself, psychiatric wise. And it kind of freaked me out. It kind of made me feel, what am I supposed to do to let these people know that I have problems? Yeah. It kind of played my brain. And one thing that really annoys me, Tim, is people that do not have it, because there's a lot of people out there who have never experienced mental health issues. And about 6 years ago, I was living in the city in Aberdeen. I was on a bus, and I'm not a violent, horrible person, but I sat in this bus and we're going past the psychiatric hospital. There was 2 guys sat there giggling and having a laugh. They went, oh yeah, that's the mental hospital where all the mental people went. And I lost it. I went, what the fuck are you saying? That's a hospital where lawyers, doctors, people of intelligence, poor people, everybody. Because mental health does not just affect people that are working class or people that are whatever. Yeah, mental health issues affect everybody, irrespective of class or status, you know? And I hate discrimination. I don't know about you, if you've ever been discriminated against, but I can't stand the discrimination against mental health problems.
Yeah, no, we're all human beings at the end of the day. That's
of course. And that's, you know, Tim, you know, you're my friend, I respect you, but what you're doing, you're reaching out to everybody that needs it, and more people should do that. I'm a Christian, and I'm not going to about my faith, it's irrelevant, but there are people out there that care. The Samaritans, Cam, all these people really care. And for all those out there, all you people out there that are scared to reach out, I think you have to just go, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to ask somebody for help, you know?
Yeah. Because it's knowing somebody's out there asking for help and not seeing it as a sign of weakness, and trying to destigmatize this thing and by talking about it.
You know, and as far as funding, people sponsoring, I haven't got a lot of money in my life, but if say for example we could all just donate £2 or £1 or whatever, people like you are making sure that money and that funding is going to people that need it. Unlike some other people I'm not going to mention, the money goes in and they take their cut, and it's not right, I don't think.
Yeah, no. All the money from this record is going to mental health charities. IHMP in Medway and Brain Aid in America.
Brilliant.
Every single last penny goes to them to help them do the amazing job that they are doing. So I really appreciate that. So
if I can just say, musically, I've heard it. It's brilliant, and I'm saying that to all the people out there. What you're doing is musically brilliant.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, no, it's...
Can I give you and all our family and people out there a little freestyle before I go?
Go for it. Yeah, let's do this.
Are you sure?
Yes, absolutely. Hit me. This will be
this one's going out from the Highlands of Scotland. Tim, all my brothers and sisters out there from MCG. Because you know all the things going on in your brain. Some of the time they seem like you're going insane, but you're not. The feelings that you've got are caught in yourself and all the world, because you know it's a not, but still we seem to be the ones that want to be true, because I grab the microphone, it's coming from me to you. So listen, there's people that care out there, so don't dare. So take a little time to see the ones that really want where. You want to find them, they will find you. All the words will come straight from me, straight to you. So take some numbers and take the little time because you know that they love you, they know that it's right. So I thank you, Tim, for all the place in the base, mental health problems coming from this happy face. I will always be the Scottish MC. It doesn't really matter if you got time to be. So people, listen to the words they drop. Tim and his family are the ones that are the crop. Please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time.
No worries.
Harry, that's
I thank you so very much, Tim, for having me, and much love to everybody. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even my emotions had echo in so much space. When you're out there, oh out there, I was out of touch. Yeah, it wasn't because I didn't know enough. Yeah, I just knew too much. 'Cause maybe I'm crazy. Yeah, maybe I'm crazy. Yeah, maybe I'm crazy. Possibly. And I hope you're having the time of your life. But baby, think twice. That's my only advice. Come on now. Who do you think you are? Ha, God rest your soul. Do you really think that you're in control? 'Cause I think you're crazy. Yeah, I think you're crazy. Just like me. Well, my heroes had the heart to lose their lives out on a limb. And all I remember thinking is it look like fun? And it's no coincidence I've just come. And I'll die when I'm done. 'Cause maybe I'm crazy. Yeah, maybe I'm crazy. Yeah, maybe I'm crazy. Yeah, maybe I'm crazy. Probably.
So, right, a quick introduction. This is Alex from the fantastic band Wonk Unit. I'm a big fan, really like what you do. A lot of years of hard work has gone into Wonk Unit, and I absolutely adore what you do. And probably one of my well, I've got two favourite Wonk Unit moments. I think probably at the Fest, which was the first time I saw you guys play, actually, was at the Fest in Florida with all my American friends not able to understand your South London accent, asking me what you were saying and doing a translate. And then probably the second time was like, I felt so proud of you guys when I saw you on the massive stage at Rebellion. That was just like really like, it was like watching a bunch of mates, especially because I mean, I know Mark, your bass player, quite well. And just seeing my mates up there was just like, oh, that was like warmed my heart. Anyway, we're gonna chat about addiction, because you've been very open and honest about addiction. You've had problems in the past, and I'll just leave it down to you, Alex. You sort of tell us a little bit of history about it and how you dealt with things.
Right. Well, so I'll give you a quick, very condensed guide to alcoholism, basically. So I've been in recovery for 21 years. I got sober 2nd of August 1999.
Wow.
And I am an alcoholic. I'm an addict. I'm a drug addict. I still am an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I will always be an addict. And I just very, very briefly, you know, I picked up my first drink at around 13, and it was the answer to all of my problems. You know, as a kid, I wasn't a happy kid or anything like that. And certainly going through you know, those teenage years are full of insecurity anyway. And when I had my first drink, it was like, that was the answer to everything. So suddenly, you know, I weren't afraid of girls. You know, I'd have a drink, I weren't afraid of girls. Suddenly I weren't afraid of fighting. Suddenly I weren't afraid of socializing, you know. So the drink became my answer to everything. Right. And, you know, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I knew I was an alcoholic by the age of about 15, because pretty much from the age of 13, I started drinking and didn't stop. So alcoholism works like this. It's a progressive illness, alcoholism, yeah. So you can have a relationship with alcohol for years and years and years, yeah, and you'll never stay at the same level. Yeah, it will gradually get worse over a period of years.
Yeah.
And it can be sort of like, you know, 10 years, 5 years or whatever. And you'll be a functioning alcoholic for a certain amount of time. But the progressive nature, you know, it always gets a bit worse and worse and worse. And then suddenly, in the later years of alcoholism, which is when I hit 27, you hit the chronic stages of alcoholism, and that's when shit really hits the fan. That's when, you know, things like you lose your job, suddenly you can't, relationships break down, you just shit hits the fan, basically.
Yeah.
And you die, pretty much. So I ended up, you know, from, you know, 13 to 27, just being just on it. Ends up in August 1999, having surgery after bursting an artery between my heart and my lungs. Had emergency surgery to have my plumbing put back together again. And then when I came out of the surgery and I was sober, because I'd had to sober me up prior to surgery. And that was when I had that moment. I was in the cardiothoracic ward of St Thomas's, in between heart and lung transplant people. They put 5 stents in me. And so I was just like, you know what, I'm done now, I'm sober. And I was lucky enough, it was a Labour government back then, and I was lucky enough to be put in a priory clinic.
Right.
And then when I went in this clinic, I did a month-long addiction treatment program. It was a month-long intensive program on addiction, and that's when I discovered all things about addiction and its nature and its progressive, the progressive nature of the illness. And the maddest thing about alcoholism, this is, you know, it's a very quick thing I'm going on about, but say, for example, one of the most interesting things I found about alcoholism is, no matter how long you've been sober, it could be 5 years, 20 years, 40 years. If you fall off the wagon, you never go back to the start of your addiction, yeah?
Right.
So if I'd been sober for 25 years and I fell off the wagon, within days, or a very short number of weeks, not only would I return to the level of alcoholism where I left off 25 years ago, I'd actually return to a state as if I'd never stopped in the first place.
Yeah.
And that is why when people fall off the wagon, they suddenly are in the gutter very, very quickly. You know, people raise families and this and that, and judges, they'll become judges and lawyers, they fall off the wagon and suddenly they lose everything. I've glossed over a lot of crazy shit. So I think the biggest problem people have with addiction is denial. You know, alcoholism is denial. You know, I mean, for years, you know, I couldn't imagine a life without booze or drugs. I couldn't imagine a sober life.
Yeah, I know Derek from Dundee, Make That Tape Records and Uniforms. He's also a recovering alcoholic, and he said the amount of times he's had somebody said, "Oh, I'm really, you're really great. You've quit drinking. I wish I could do it." Stood there with a pint in the hand. He says, "First thing you got to do is put that pint down."
Yeah, you know, it's like it's inconceivable that you're ever going to get sober. You know, and I was dead. You know, I was dead. I was about to drop dead. I had to be physically saved by surgeons. You know, but the mad thing is, it's like getting sober comes from within. You know, so it doesn't matter who, you know, no one can say anything to you. You know, you can't do anything. If you've got friends or loved ones who are alcoholics, you know, you can support them, but you are never going to change an alcoholic's mind. It has to come from within. And unfortunately, it has to come from hitting rock bottom. And some people's rock bottoms are way lower than others.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And some people's rock bottoms are so low that they don't make it, you know? But, you know, when you do hit rock bottom, and, you know, there's pretty much only one way, you know, you die or you get sober. And like 98% of alcoholics die of an alcohol-related illness or injury. But yeah, so the thing is, you know, there is no, you have to be sober. There's no replacing it. There's no, I'm going to give up drink. I'm going to smoke a bit of weed. There's no, you know, because the problem isn't the drink. The problem is living with yourself sober and getting used to you.
Yeah.
And so when we start our life on the wagon, we're usually very, very emotionally immature, because what happens is we so say a 13-year-old Alex picks up a drink, and suddenly it's the answer, as I said, it's the answer to all these problems. But suddenly you don't mature emotionally, because, you know, you have a stressful situation. A non-addict will deal with that person the right way, process it the way we're supposed to, whereas the addict will drink on it. And that's the same with every situation. The answer, the emotional answer to all problems is to drink. So addicts are emotionally immature. We stop maturing. So basically, when I got sober at 27, I was basically had the emotional age of a 13-year-old.
Right.
And you know, and that sounds crazy, and it's just like, what do you mean? It's like, hang on, completely insecure, you know, in relationships, frightened, crap with money, crap with work, crap with responsibility. Basically, I was a kid, you know, and that's what that's what the problem with alcoholics and addicts, you know, why they fuck up so much is because they are essentially grown-up children. They're emotionally immature, and you only
think as a crutch almost.
Well, you know, you just you're emotionally stunted because you don't grow. You don't emotionally grow, and it's only when you get sober that you then start emotional growth. And then as you grow, you realize, you know, and emotional growth happens slowly. And, you know, there's no easy, like, the first couple of years of life on the wagon is tough, you know. It's hard. There's no quick fix to sobriety. There's no quick fix. But you just don't pick up and you don't substitute. And the longer you're sober, you're dealing with situations, you're emotionally mature, you start being able to handle situations better. And then suddenly all that happens is, like, us as people, humans are amazingly fickle. And like, so what all that happens is, like, I think you basically forget that you're suffering.
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, so recovery comes, so it's not like a button you press when you're fixed. You know, people ask me, because, you know, I mentor addicts and stuff quite a bit. And they say, oh, how long is it going to take before I feel better? And I'm like, you know, don't think about it, you know, for you know, the cliche, day at a time. But, you know, there is total hope. Like, you know, there is recovery. Like, you know, I honestly haven't thought about picking up a drink in 19 years. No, do you know what I'm saying?
Amazing stuff, man.
Yeah, and it's not an issue. I mean, that doesn't stop the fact that I'm not a drug. I am an addict still, because, as I say, I injured my back 10 years ago. Got prescribed cocodamol, tramadol, bam, hooked. You know, so
Yeah.
and then the last decade I've struggled with painkiller addiction. You know, and so just. If you're an addict, bad luck. but
one thing I would ask is, because I mean, obviously the music industry that we both work in is quite bad for temptation. So you have to be pretty strong, I think, to get through this, to do this job. And because I toured with two addicts. They were absolutely amazing musicians, and it was like the bass player was just out of his mind every single day. Could still play, but it was just getting more and more of a pain. And then we were in Hamburg, and the keyboard player was a drug addict. And of course, you know, he managed to find heroin. So the next show in Antwerp was an absolute disaster. Yeah. And I was just like, trying to, you know, shepherd them round and trying to be sort of, you know, helpful, but like at that point when it's affecting my show, it yeah.
Hell of a fuck off, mate. You cut your losses, mate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was too hard. And so I was wondering what your experience with, like, you know, I suppose in the punk scene, people are, it's the one scene where I do feel people are a little bit more understanding about things.
Yeah, no question. I mean, the punk scene, you know, out of all the scenes, you know, it has its utopian values, and you are going to find, you know, people are going to be understanding, and you know, you're going to get support, because we have values and we're good people, aren't we? We're a family. You know, punk scene. I mean, obviously, when you're new in when you're the early days of recovery, you are not going to be setting foot in a pub or a club. Because the most important thing in the world is your recovery. Yeah. That's number one before anything else. You have to be selfish with your recovery, and that means you ain't going to be going near. You ain't going to be gigging in those early days of recovery. However, the creative process, like, you know, early Wonk, all my songs, they were an AA diary for me. You know, my heart and soul, my AA was my songwriting. Right. You know, and you know, when I started gigging sober, probably a year into my recovery, you know, those were amazing. Like, I mean, it was difficult. I didn't want to be in a pub with a load of drunk people, because being sober, and especially being an alcoholic, so new in recovery, surrounded by people drinking, you don't want to be there.
Yeah.
But the actual artistic process of writing down, you know, writing, you know, getting down your fucking demons on into song, and fucking performing, that was like AA, that was like group therapy for me anyway. The early Wonk was my early days of sobriety, and performing was like group therapy and AA and stuff. And but yeah, so I mean, the punk scene, very understanding.
Yeah.
However, if you're an alcoholic, the early days of recovery, number one thing is your recovery, and you do not jeopardize that, you know.
Yeah.
And then once you get stronger in recovery, that's when you can start, you know, testing the waters and stuff like that. But even now, like, you know, 21 years sober, you know, I'll go, I mean, I'm performing. It's all great for me, but you'll always find me behind the merch table, and there's a reason for that, because I need something to do, you know. I because I'm doing something, you know, and that's how I get through it, you know. But I mean, if I wasn't behind a merch table, I wouldn't be in a venue. I would be asleep in the van, or you know, or
got to do something to fill your time.
I wouldn't be
up.
there. Yeah, so you know, so yes.
Yeah, you know, I thought there was a very interesting point how you said when you were recovering, you started a lot of the Wonk Unit songs, and I know myself, I'm bipolar, and this is quite a lot of the reason why I'm doing all this, is that I find that music is such a good focus. Certainly for me, it was like for getting like you said, getting the demons out and just writing stuff and creating.
Yeah.
Not only sort of for addiction, but for also mental health. It's sort of, you know, I had a really terrible time at a show in San Francisco, and I didn't want to play. I was having a really bad bipolar crash. We passed a couple of houses where some friends of mine who'd lived in San Francisco had died, and it really put me in a bad place. And my friend said to me, look, you don't have to play if you don't want to.
Yeah.
But, you know, these people would love to hear you play. And I got up on stage and I felt so much better afterwards. So much better. It's a real big healer.
Yeah, it's exercising the demons, isn't it? You know, it's, I mean, yes, I write, you know, my music is personal. Every song I write is fucking heart on sleeve, you know. I write about stuff that's close to home, and I write about stuff because I have a burning desire to get this shit out of me, you know. So that, you know, so artistic expression is a very healing thing. And I mean, I encourage people, I mean, people new in recovery, I encourage them to keep a journal, just to start writing how they feel and stuff like that. I mean, what's amazing is before I was fucked up by drinking drugs, you know, I was into skateboarding and BMX, and I loved animals, and I could see the beauty in the world, yeah. But then, you know, drugs, you know, and when I say drugs, I mean alcohol, I mean chemicals in general, you know?
Yeah.
You get corrupted by drugs, yeah? And they take your soul, right? And I remember that last years of my drinking, you know, I was dead, you know, I was just, there was no beauty in the world, you know, my soul was black. There was no beauty in the world, and I saw nothing, you know, I saw no beauty in the world. But that was what was amazing. Like, you get in recovery, and then all them things the innocent things that would make you happy as a child, yeah, like sharks or birds of prey or monkeys, you know, just little things that you was fascinated with, that you thought was long dead in your heart, you know. Like even skateboarding for me, you know, I didn't skate I didn't skate through my 20s. Do you know what I mean? You know, all the things that essentially made me as a person, you know, drugs killed. But then you get sober, and then suddenly the beauty of the world starts coming back. And all those things that essentially make you as a person before you were corrupted, you know, starts coming back. You blossom, you know. I mean, recovery has just been the most incredible thing to ever. Sorry, got cramp in my leg. And recovery has been the most incredible fucking thing to ever, you know, ever happen to me. Genuinely, I've been happy. Like,
that's fantastic.
Like you know, I have been happy in recovery. Like happy, you know. Before I got sober, I don't really remember much happiness. I remember having some crazy fucking times and good laughs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't ever remember feeling happy, just fucking happy in myself.
Yeah.
You know, I always needed validation from others. I needed recognition from others. I needed blah, blah, blah. But through recovery, you know, I'm just happy in myself now, you know?
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's good. There's recovery is such an amazing thing, and it's there for everyone. You know, after it's a mountain, but you know there is hope for everyone, and you know, in a really positive message. You know, there is fucking life after addiction. You know, like it's good. It's good, mate.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been really positive chat and really, really helpful. Thank you so much for your time, Alex.
Look at this. Nicotine. 18 years I fucking give up smoking. Back on the smoking. It's been a hard year, mate.
It has been a hard year. 2020 has been really rough. Now, thank you so much for your time. Keep doing what you do. I love what you do, and thank you for the positivity there. That was absolutely amazing. So this is Gab De La Vega. Fantastic songwriter from Italy. Absolutely love your stuff. I met you through my friend Greg Rikus. You talked with my friend Greg Rikus, and any friend of Greg's is a friend of mine. So I checked out your stuff, and absolutely amazing. Really, I love it. I love what you do.
Thank you.
And that's so I just basically thank you so much, first of all, for being on this. And I'm looking basically sort of what your experiences with mental health issues are, and what and how you've maybe tried to combat those issues. Just take it away when in your own time. Thank you very much, Gab.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, for starters. I know it's a very important topic, and I think that the more we talk about it, the better it gets for everyone. I've always felt like mental health was neglected, especially growing up.
Yeah.
You know, they always had that stigma that when you had mental health issues, it meant that you were not right. And this is something that has to change. In particular for me, I never really tackled mental health issues until quite recently, in fact. So to give you some backstory, I lost my mother last year, 1 year ago, pretty much,
Very sorry for
around this time. And that happened quite suddenly. I left to Canada to spend some time with my family over there. A part of my family lives in Canada. They're Canadian. And so I've been to Canada for quite some time last year. And when I came back, I found out that my mother was sick. And she hid it from me. I didn't know. I had no idea whatsoever. So I came back in mid-July, and for a few months, we've been dealing with what comes when you get like sick and you get a tumor. And that's the time that I started dealing with mental health. At first, when I decided to go to Canada, it was also because I was having a hard time. I had issues that I didn't know how to handle, and that like put in some distance between me and my problems. They helped me just per se. But when I came back, it was even worse because I found out my mother was sick. So luckily for us, the hospital had a service that was for both the patients and the family. Like a psychologist that was helping the patients deal with cancer, and family members to deal with the fact that someone in your family has cancer. So that's when I decided that I wanted to give it a try. It was a free service. Luckily for us, the national health system here is pretty solid. So I decided to give it a try, and then I went there. At first, actually, I told my mother that she had to go and try that and try to talk to someone that was external in the whole situation. And she went, and when she came back from the first session, she told me, well, it was a good thing, and I think you should do the same and try to talk to this person. So I decided to give it a try, and that's when I first started talking to someone about mental health. So it was coming from that time of my life. And eventually, when my mother died a few months later, I kept seeing this therapist, and he's helping me like dealing with grieving and all that counts when you lose parents.
Right. Yeah. That's really that's good to hear. I mean, yeah, because my experience is obviously from the UK. I was wondering what it was like, what the support system's like in Italy, where you are, for that sort of thing. That sounds really good that they had a bereavement counselling, which is it's a big thing, and especially to lose your mother is such a big thing. So that is good that there was somebody there and to support that.
Yeah, it's very good, especially being a man sometimes doesn't really help to realize that you really need some help sometimes, because you always have this macho thing. So if you have mental health, it means you're weak. So it means you're not manly enough, and all this old-fashioned thinking and old-fashioned, mentality that hopefully one day will disappear. And I think
that's what I've come up with. Actually, almost all the chats has been the stigma attached to mental health. Is actually it's quite a theme, and this is in a small way. I mean, I'm not a huge famous guy or anything, so I don't know how many people are going to see this, but trying to sort of destigmatize mental health, admit when you've got a problem, seek help, either through a professional, or if you don't feel comfortable with a professional, your friends are there. They're your friends for a reason. They're there when you need them. And I've had a few friends who've, especially during lockdown, who've just been in touch just because they needed somebody to talk to.
That is important. And I've realized that, sometimes it's just a misconception that we kind of build or contribute to. So, oh no, if I talk about my fragility, if I talk about the way I feel, people will distance themselves from me because they don't want to be entangled in my life problems or somewhat. But on the other hand, I've always been I always found people were very supporting, and I realized that my issues were not that far from other people's issues, even if they were coming from a different reason, from different background. When I happened to say, you know what, I feel I don't have a grip on my life right now because of this or because of that, and then talk to someone, and I found out that they went through something similar. That experience helped me figure out what I was doing in my specific time. And when you said that you said, well, I'm not that famous, but luckily for us, I'm seeing lots of famous, let's say famous or well-known people, artists, musicians, whatever, being very outspoken about mental health. And I guess that's a very good thing.
Yeah, that's a very good thing. There was actually, I think you probably know, I won't mention his name, but unfortunately was too busy at the moment to do it, but famous guy that I know. And he said, I fully support, and he's going to try and sort of, retweet stuff for us and that, but whatever he can do, but doesn't have the time at the moment. But yeah, he said, this is totally something that I feel very strongly about as well. And that was really nice to hear, because somebody at the top of the pile, has a bit more clout than me, but the more we all talk about it, the more each one of us talks about this sort of thing and destigmatizes, the more likely we are to save lives, because depression can lead to suicide. We've lost a few in the punk scene, certainly during the lockdown, and that was very, very sad to hear. And so the more we open up to each other and talk to each other about these things, I personally think that is better. So that's why I've been very forward in saying that sort of thing myself. It's just, look, I'm here, I'm myself, I have problems, let's talk about this.
Yeah, and for example, on one hand, we have social media that can be destructive when it comes to helping people feel better about their life, and sometimes it can be a very useful tool, so you can connect with people. for example, like in my song Imperfect Texture, that's pretty much what I'm talking about. Is, you know, people assume that you have a great life because they see maybe that you're doing this, you're doing that, and they don't really know the struggle behind that. They don't really realize that it's very hard for someone, even if you don't see it. So, you know, it's always important to reach out to people and use these tools to do that. It's very important.
Yeah, it's a great song, by the way. I must say. Yeah, no, it's like that showing off your best life on social media, isn't it? It's like, yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
I rarely put like the, oh, you know, I slept on a park bench last night, sort of thing.
You know, if I may add that, that song is actually as a sort of inception, because in this song I talk about that, and in the video, if you don't know the backstory, people might think that I'm showing off. You know, I come up with a Back to the Future DeLorean, which is it was kind of somehow easy to get because a friend of my cousins had one, but it's a long story short.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if you see that and you assume that I have this amazing life where I can even get a Back to the Future DeLorean and shoot a video like that, for example, then you might think that, you know, oh, that person doesn't have any issue. And then you look at your life and you see that maybe you cannot do that. And so you feel miserable. And in fact, what I want to do with that song is to say, to break that system, that the fact that people sometimes are judgmental and say, oh, that guy has everything. And, you know, the song is about that. And, you know, even you mentioned suicide, and I lost some friends to that too. And I know, like in my music, sometimes in my life, I like yourself, I like to talk about mental health and at least acknowledge the fact that it's something to be talked about.
Talked about, and take it seriously. Oh, thank you so much for this, Gab. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. So brave of you as well. And I'm so sorry for your loss as well.
Thanks.
You're a good guy, and hope we can hang out at some point soon and do the music thing again. Thank you so much for doing it.
Hopefully, man. I can't wait. I'm just waiting for that. Like everyone, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, we're going to enjoy it even more than before, I guess.
Yes, we're going to be just like,
yeah, like a C chord.
Cool. So, hello. This is Sil from the fantastic band, the Werecats. Absolutely love this band. I am a little biased in that I used to live with a couple of Werecats, and I was in a band with your drummer and your partner Mike. But absolutely love the Werecats. Thank you so much for doing this, first of all. And basically, I want to ask you, and so I know you work in the health sector, so your experience with mental health issues, what are they, and what have you seen and things like that? Feel free, go for it.
Okay, so I work in occupational health, and I'm a specialist nurse in occupational health. So I've dealt with lots of workplace health issues, ranging from physical health to mental health, and over the years, having worked in this kind of arena, mental ill health is usually the most sort of prevalent reason for referral. So the statistics that 1 in 4 adults have experienced mental ill health in their lives is pretty accurate. And I think now with COVID-19 and lockdown restrictions, people with job insecurities, all those sorts of things, kids not being able to see their friends, I think mental ill health is just going to really sort of explode into a huge national sort of public health issue, and I think for that reason it's always been good to have a conversation about it. There's still a lot of stigma attached to it, and I think for sort of people like us who are also who also do gigs, we some of us do it for a living, some of us do it for a hobby, and having those discussions and opening up those conversations widely, I think is more important now than ever. And I know there's been a few sort of like support groups for musicians and charities, and that's a really great start. But I think what you're doing, Tim, is brilliant, because you're bringing this to the fore, channeling kind of, you know, raising awareness through your music. So, you know, my kind of personal experience is that, you know, with mental ill health, there needs to be a lot of, you know, a lot more widespread support and breaking down of stigma, and allowing people to, you're giving people space to talk to you about it if they want to. And some of the really good tools that's out there at the moment is the Public Health England COVID-19 psychological first aid course, and it's actually free for anyone. And you can just, if you just Google Public Health England psychological first aid, you can get a link and you can do that course.
Oh yeah, if you send me the link to that, I'll put that in I will put that in the event description and stuff. That's really, any links are really useful, that people can go to.
Yeah, will do. And even though, as you know, health professional, having, you know, sort of worked around a lot of mental well-being, you know, type issues, I did the course and I learned loads from it about how to kind of, you know, look out for people who may be sort of displaying signs, early signs of anxiety, and how to, you know, support and signpost an individual. I mean, the course isn't designed to, you know, turn you into a mental health specialist or anything like that. But I think at the moment it's, you know, if you're in a space to do so, and you know you are also well enough yourself, it's about keeping your eyes and ears open for other people who might be really struggling, and just, you know, listening, you know, and being able to direct people to the right kind of resources is that's really paramount at this moment in time.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's not like you can. Oh, I was going to say it's because it's not like you can invite people around to your house. You know, put your arm around them and cook them a meal and give them, you know, a nice hot cup of tea or something. You know, we can't even do those really basic things now, which do make people feel a lot better and a lot more nurtured, especially if you're really sort of, you know, on the edge and you're feeling quite isolated and alone. You know, we can't do that now. So we really have to sort of draw down on the resources that we've got.
Yeah, one thing I was quite interesting that you brought up, I thought, was that children, you know, also suffer from mental health issues. It's not just adults. That hasn't actually been brought up. I mean, the stigma thing has definitely come up many times.
Yeah.
And that, but the children's mental health is important too. And the fact that they can't see their friends, it does upset them. You know, kids are pretty, you know, for most part, most kids are pretty social, and they're learning about social skills and interactions, and they're losing that obviously with this situation. But kids' mental health is also very, very important. And, you know, if people have kids, I mean, I don't personally, but if people have kids, you know, do look after the kids' mental health. I think is quite important. The stigma thing has been very, very prevalent in, like, I think we're getting better now, but I think we need to keep this dialogue going. I remember in the 90s when I was, before I was diagnosed as bipolar, I went to a doctor and I said, you know, I feel depressed. And the doctor just said, oh, you're just a bit sad. That was no help whatsoever. It's like, I know I feel a bit sad, mate, but
yeah. I mean, it's you know, there's a lot more insight now, you know, into mental ill health, and you know, it's important as well that, you know, not to self-diagnose, because at the moment people are sort of, you know, because of what's happening, you know, with COVID environmentally, and, you know, as adults, you know, sort of worrying about your future, where that's going to go, and even like financial worries, relationship worries, all that kind of stuff. It's really important not to self-diagnose, but if you are feeling, you know, sort of very, very sad, low mood, you know, crying, things like loss of appetite, wanting to smoke more, drink more, you know, or sort of self-medicate, if those kind of symptoms last longer than 2 weeks, it's so important that you get medical advice and that you don't self-diagnose, because there's, you know, the internet is a wonderful thing, but it can also be a really damaging thing. But you know, there's no shame in getting help, and just because you can't get to see a GP, you know, there's a lot of, you know, telemedicine's like all over the place now, and for those people who, I know some people aren't even signed up for GPs to a GP locally, but there is I don't have a local GP. I use an app, an NHS app called GP at Hand, and absolutely brilliant. You know, you don't have to physically go to a GP surgery, because that's all sort of discouraged now anyway. But you can seriously get to speak to you know, a nurse practitioner. You can get to speak to a doctor, you know, just on your phone, and it's really easy to register. So that's what I would really encourage people to do, because it's literally, you can get expert medical advice at your fingertips. Like at the beginning of COVID, I had full-on COVID symptoms, and I ended up getting asthma from it, and it was really horrible. It was like the worst sort of 2 weeks of illness I've ever had in my entire life. And I had this GP app, and I literally was able to speak to a doctor, get a prescription faxed to my local pharmacy, and you know, it had some medication in my hand all within like half an hour.
That's
you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's really, really important. You know, if you're not signed up with a GP and you are feeling kind of, you know, you're getting, you know, ups and downs, and it's lasted for, you know, a number of months, it's really important to kind of you know, just have things prepared for yourself. That's going to help you.
Yeah, definitely.
There's an NHS app called GP at Hand.
Yeah, if there's a link for that. Yeah, I was also we've discussed some of the other places, not only sort of IMP, who we're doing, which is in Medway. We chatted to Aby the other day, and absolutely amazing person. And all entirely volunteer run, but there's Head Above the Waves. There's also Calm. There's also the Samaritans if it's really bad. So there's things out there. I think you might feel alone. You're stuck in your house alone and stuff, but there's people out there, and your friends care. I think talking to each other and discussing this stuff, don't feel like you're being a burden. I think you know, your friends are there because they're your friends, because they are your friends. That's important as well, I find.
Yeah, I think talking's one really, you know, that's one sort of crucial aspect of it. But I also think kind of, you know, if, you know, if you're not working, you know, it's important to really kind of, you know, keep a routine. You know, things like, you know, to try to keep a healthy routine where, you know, you're eating regularly, you're taking loads of fluids, you're getting up at regular times, you're not sleeping till like midday, that kind of thing. Because once you get out of a routine, into one where, you know, you're not really kind of, you know, if you're not moving around, there's no activity, you're not eating, and you know, you don't want to really end up in a spiral of a really unhealthy lifestyle, because that's just going to accelerate that mental sort of, you know, the mental ill health and the anxiety. It just exacerbate all of that.
Absolutely amazing tips. Thank you so much for this. Really appreciate you, because obviously you come from sort of a medical background as well. It's very helpful to, it's not just, there's a lot more than you've given us here that I haven't had from other conversations. So thank you so much for your time still. Thank you for doing this, and really, really kind. If there's any links you can send, like apps or anything like that, I'll put them all in the event, and on the day, if anybody while this is streaming, I'll post them up as well. Thanks so much for your time. It really is appreciated.
Yeah, Tim, likewise, thank you for inviting me to do this. I think it's so important to, you know, sort of speak up about these things and offer support. And, you know, if anybody, you know, needs to, you know, speak to someone, I'm always happy to take a call, and in the strictest confidence.
Oh, that's brilliant of you. Thank you so much. And yeah, and I hope once this is all done, current situation, that me and the Werecats can share a stage, because I absolutely love your band. Really brilliant. Any band with a song about Rab and Asbury Castle with my vote. So.
Excellent. Okay then, Tim.
Thanks so much. Cool. So this is my good friend, former tour mate. I think we've toured together about 3 or 4 times now. Malcolm Tent in Danbury, Connecticut. He's also a member of fantastic, amazing punk band called Anté. It's been in loads of bands, does loads of projects, runs a record label called TPOS, which I've released some stuff on as well. Wonderful, wonderful guy, brilliant musician, brilliant person. Thank you so much for doing this. And so I was going to ask you, what's your experience with mental health? I know you've been in the music industry for a long time and you've met a lot of characters, certainly one in particular who's quite notorious. So what's your feelings on this, and what's your thoughts and experiences?
Oh my gosh. Well, if you wanted to talk about any characters I've met who are particularly notorious, especially in the realm of mental health, the first and foremost guy I can think of is somebody from the great city of Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is a place that I know you've been and where you could not understand a word anybody said. And I was hoping this guy was going to show up at the gig we played, but he did not. His name is Peter Stubb. And Peter Stubb is kind of like a wild mountain man version of Daniel Johnston, in that he's acutely in touch with his mental health issues and writes about them like fantastically, just lucidly, clearly, poignantly, directly, honestly, unflinchingly. I mean, I can hardly praise this guy enough, because what's going on with Peter Stubb seems to be a very common thing, in that the creativity that he has is directly linked to, or goes hand in hand with, his mental health issues. And that's something that you've probably heard of a lot and seen a lot. And I actually just got done reading this really cool biography of the great mathematician and philosopher Bertrand Russell.
Oh, right.
And Bertrand Russell's entire life was trying to understand the correlation between mental health and creativity or genius or whatever you have it, and how closely intertwined the two are.
Right.
And I think Peter Stubb's just a great example of that, because he's got both. You know, the dude literally can't function in the so-called real world, but man, what a blazing light of talent and songwriting ability. It's just incredible. And to hear his stuff, and to hear the way that he writes and sings about the stuff that goes on in his head every single day, it's the entire gamut of emotions, you know, highs and lows, goods and bads, and it's just so right there and so on the table for everybody to see. And I just love the way he does it, just completely, here it is, take it or leave it.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I know of him through yourself, obviously, and then obviously other people. You mentioned Daniel Johnson, who's another one who I played with once, Daniel, and really sweet guy, and definitely very troubled. And then Wesley Willis as well, who sadly passed away as well. But yeah, these people like balance on a line, don't they? It's very fine. It's very.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times it's tempting to say that you can't have one without the other, because you look at the entire realm of creative people, whether they're visual artists or musical artists or writers or poets. It seems like there's always just some kind of blend of creativity and so-called sanity. And I think that there's been one thing I was thinking about, actually, as I was preparing myself to talk to you about this, that the concept that's come to the fore in recent years, which I think is very helpful in understanding these things, is the concept of the spectrum. you know, because I'm 56 years old, and I remember going back to when I was younger, there's pretty much only two types of people. There were normal people and crazy people, you know, and that was the limit. That was the depth of understanding that anybody had of mental illness. You know, either you were a normal person or you were nuts. But now, as the understanding has evolved, we've come around to the idea of the spectrum, you know, where however you choose to envision a spectrum, going from black to white, from positive to negative, and all of the different grades in between, and all the different shades in between. And everybody fits somewhere on that spectrum. You know, whether you're on the positive end, the negative end, the black end, the white end, or any of the almost infinite places in between. It doesn't really matter. You're somewhere in there. So we all have the same basic emotional experiences, but because of our different places on this thing now that we recognize as a spectrum, we experience them all differently, to different extremities, to different depths, to different durations. So anybody who's ever had like a case of bad anxiety, for example, maybe you're just anxious about a job interview, or you're anxious about paying a bill, all you have to do is sit down for 1 second and think, okay, this is anxiety. So what I'm feeling right now is simply a version of what somebody else is feeling to a different extent, a different severity, a different depth, a different permanence, but it's all the same thing, you know. So that's why I think that we've come to understand the idea of sanity or insanity or mental health or mental lack of health, whatever. It's all relative, you know. It's just a matter of degrees.
Yeah.
And I think that once somebody can grasp that, it's just, you know, you can really empathize more with people who are on a different spot in the spectrum than you are.
Yeah, I think the progress has definitely been made from certainly from when I was a kid, and I remember, you know, just you see somebody who was obviously dealing with mental health issues, and you go, oh, that's the local crazy person, which wasn't really helpful. And actually, sometimes when you talk to them, they can be the most wonderful people. We had a guy we called him the Colonel in Wimbledon, and I used to go through Wimbledon on my way to work and stuff, and meet my housemate there when I first moved up to London. And this old guy, and he clearly got dementia and was suffering mental health, but he would go out and he would have a little Casio tone keyboard, and he would like hit it with drumsticks like he was in a marching band. And I kind of liked it. It was for me, it was like he was so creative, and the things that he would do. And then sometimes he'd be painting on top of the keyboard to like with a bit of paper, but painting to make weird sounds and stuff. And it was actually really like brilliant outsider art style stuff. And I really enjoyed sort of seeing what he would do every day, and then ended up just, you know, always drop a bit of money in and like chat to him. Ended up chatting to him, and you know, bought him a coffee when it was cold and stuff and things like that. And it was just like, he was actually such a wonderful guy. And like when he was lucid, certainly very lucid, he'd led a hell of a life. He was in the army. He had fought in the war. He'd had some PTSD and stuff and things like that, but it was like, yeah, brilliant. And I loved the way he was so creative. It was always like, he'd have like these Casio tone keyboards that I don't know whether he ever bought them. I mean, we bought him a couple of keyboards because he was quite often smashing them, but we'd buy him new keyboards and stuff, and just to see what he would do and where he would go with it, and that's it.
Yeah, and I think that also illustrates in some ways what a fine line it is between, you know, so-called sanity and so-called insanity. You know, because here's a guy he's led the so-called normal life. You know, he's done that. I also think about this dude who I'm in a band with right now. Excuse me. I don't know if I shouldn't probably mention the name because there's some personal autobiographical detail in this.
Yeah.
But this dude at one time, excuse me, this dude at one time was what you would consider to be normal. He had a wife, he had kids, he had a job, he had a computer degree, a degree from college in computer science. And now he is nowhere near that world. He's off in a completely different world of his own. And it's a rather unique world and a very interesting world, but no more wife, no more kids, no more college degree that he can do anything with. And it just goes to show you really how close anybody is from going from one side to the other. And so I've come to understand that it's never a good idea to say, well, look at that nut over there, because there's any number of factors that could make you that nut. It's very, very, very fine line.
It's the destigmatizing as well, and calling people nutters and crazy people and whatever, like they have mental health issues. That's the be all and end it, and it can happen to anybody. Yeah, the brain is a complicated machine. I think that's personally my feelings. Yeah.
Oh, sure. And and when you think about not only just the brain, but the human organism in general, there's an almost literally infinite number of things that can go wrong with it. And it doesn't take much. It could be one simple misfire of one synapse, which could send you just kind of meandering off down a path, And I think, to relate to something I was saying a little bit earlier, it really is just a matter of degrees. You think about the normal range of emotions, and there's that word again, normal, that normal range of emotions that a person feels during a given day. All you have to do is take any one of those emotions or any one of those thoughts and just dwell on it a little too much, or start talking to yourself about it while you're doing the dishes or whatever. And all of a sudden, you're exhibiting the exact same behavior that so-called crazy person pushing a shopping cart down the road is, as they walk down the street yelling at imaginary figures and muttering to themselves. And, they're having the exact same dialogue that a supposed normal person does, only they're having it in the open and in public instead of internally. And I think it just goes to show you really how very little difference there is.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, this is absolutely amazing, Malcolm. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to add to feel?
Other than the usual self-promotion, to the actual discussion, not really. I think I said what I needed to say, and I'm glad I had a chance to do this because these are things I thought about quite a bit and never really had a forum in which to say them. So for anybody who's listening, I would hope that you take these words to heart and think about that, that we really are all just people just somewhere on the spectrum, and we're all, when it comes to mental health and the way that we deal with the world and cope with the world, we really are very closely related. And it's only just a matter of degree between the so-called normal people and somebody who's out pushing a shopping cart full of their worldly possessions, yelling at, people who did them wrong 20 years ago, and they never have been able to quite get over it. We're all doing the same thing. It's just a matter of how and when.
Oh, thank you very much, and thank you for doing this, and also thank you for being on the album. You did a fantastic job on the what song is it?
What song was it, Tim, that I put my brilliant
I will have a look.
vocal
You did
on?
Control. That was it. So I did that's the song about OCD and
good one too.
In its right place. So I should have remembered that, but
well, you see, there you go. If you had the OCD, you would have been constantly obsessing over the fact that you had to know the name of the track and You know, it's just a matter of degrees and a matter of putting it all to different uses, you know?
So, thank you so much for being on that song, and thank you so much for being part of this. It's really, really appreciated. This has all been really, really helpful. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be able to contribute both to the song and to the discussion.
Oh, cheers. Cool. So, this is it Usiak or Bas or Anté? I never know what you're going under these days. Sorry.
I'm Anté.
Anté, all right, Anté. Yeah. So obviously, you know, I've known you for such a long time. We've obviously. You were in the fantastic band De Gevra, Britain's answer to the Mars Volta. I felt. Absolutely brilliant band, and now you're in Union Black Navajo, who are just riffs. Oh, love it! And must say thank you so much for being on the Lost album. Your spoken word piece really added to the song Heart, so it really made it. Along with Lucrezia, who's also done one of these chats and did the artwork and stuff. It's a brilliant band. You're now currently in Berlin. So I just want to ask you, just sort of whatever you're prepared to share with me about mental health issues, whether personal or impersonal, I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, thanks very much, Tim. And I just want to say it's a big honor. I've reflected a lot in the years that have gone by, and you start to realize what impact friendships you made a long time ago have on your life and the value of those things, which you didn't realize at the time. You were too young and stupid, and I was certainly one of the young and stupid people in some ways, just like many other people. I don't mean it as an insult. I mean it as you can't help but be. We don't come into life with a manual, so we're just trying everything out. So I've always been very grateful for your support and example and inspiration. And it's beautiful in doing things and inviting me to be part of it. So I just want to say that first.
Oh, thank you.
And it does wrap into, it wraps into a little bit what I'm going to say, because I think, especially in this year, where some of the events we've seen happen and the way the world has been moving and transforming, and I think I can't separate mental health issues as a person from the fact that it's also growing up as a young black male, black British male, in countries where a disproportionate number of us end up in prison, unemployed, underworked, have no fathers, as I'm one of those examples. And basically, success is just to survive to the age of 60 without having reached prison and maybe to have had a child or whatever. And this is like the starting point. And you kind of exist. And one of the things I realized in this year is that we've kind of, even if you're projected to be intelligent or successful, you've had to exist at minimum as if that's not all happening. Like I'd have to talk to friends and pretend we're living on the same world or planet. I had to change my name to answers to job applications at the same rate. It's actually interesting because I also work in tech, and I'd read about an experiment in 2002, and it showed how there was discrimination just in job casting. Basically, having a white name was equivalent to having 8 years experience. It was found statistically.
Oh my God.
And so I did an experiment by changing my name to an anglicized version. And sure enough, that came up. Now, my experience is anecdotal, but the experiment itself was based on thousands of resumes. And this is just one small part of, even if everything else was the same and you were just perfectly balanced, you're on this slanted battlefield. Now imagine the normal stuff of life that hits you anyway. You know, parents passing away, getting ill, just the rough and tumble of living in an inner city and whatever. And then maybe on top of that, being mentally unstable. You know, I've definitely had problems with depression for a long time. They overlapped, of course, with personal tragedies, like when my stepfather passed away and I was in university, and also having cousins of a similar background, having several problems of the same. And we all have the same profile, you know, single parent families, having grown up with working class backgrounds, having, in a weird way, on the one hand, huge expectations on us. You know, I was like the really intelligent child who could, you know, bring the family some kind of, I guess, joy. I don't mean to put it down to it, but like, you have to understand what it's like to be a second generation immigrant. You know, where you hear so many nasty things, but I don't know if you've ever been to a place like Southern Africa, nobody leaves because they think the weather's going to be better here. You know, you know, it's desperate movement because they want their children to have a better life than they think they can find in the place they love the most. Think about how brutal that is. I was looking at a picture of my mother, age 21, and I realized I didn't know this woman. Of course I didn't. I'd never met her at that age. But it really hit me that, wow, what does it mean to think I have a better chance for my unborn child if I move 10,000 kilometers away to where I will live, where people will smear shit on doors and put adverts up saying, if you want a nigger for a neighbor, vote Labour. What would you have to think, and what kind of brave, you know, kind of immense character, strength of character would you have to still do that? I don't even know if I have that. You know, I've moved to Berlin and I don't have anywhere near the same fortitude. It's almost an accident, to be honest, and I'm not even sure I've done the right thing. So what I mean is, that's the starting block. I don't know if all of this is making sense, but it's a maelstrom of things. And of course it hits you. You know, right now there's an election going on the other side of the world. And imagine what it is to think, it doesn't, whichever way it goes, millions and millions of people are completely fine to vote for somebody who could not deny or put down white supremacy on live TV.
Yeah,
whichever ways it goes, I have to live with that. I've got to see a picture of my nephew growing up, and he's looking so cute, you know, and I've got to wonder, when will he turn into a monster in the eyes of other people? This hits your mental health. I was crying having a you know, conversation with him on a Zoom, because I was thinking, I don't want to see a photo of him on TV in 10 years.
Yeah.
Imagine, and this is always weighing on us, no matter how successful, whatever that means you can be, we'll have to be eternally vigilant to survive. And that's, don't forget, from the successful. So now I'm painfully aware and know people who just maybe aren't as balanced. I'm not saying I'm particularly balanced, but even to that extent. And there's no exhaust valve. It's like pressure valve. I don't know if, you know, I'm not, it's just an observation. Really, in a sense.
No, you're right. It's horrible. Genuinely, I think, like, that side of things added to any mental health issue is just like what you were saying your mum went through. That's insanely strong to put herself through that to give you a better life. And it's something I can't even, you know, I'm obviously a white guy and I don't know, but I don't know if you know, my great granddad came from the Congo, and he must have gone through all sorts of stuff. I mean, he married an Irish woman, in fact. So that would have been, certainly in 1852, that would have been quite harsh. But yeah, thank you so much. Feel free to carry on. But yeah, I think what you've said is incredible. It's like that you know, what's going on in America today, obviously, that's insane that we still live in a society like that.
And everywhere. I'm not pointing at one country. I mean, I live in a country where, unironically, there's self-proclaimed Nazis. Like, like here, it's not like don't be a Nazi. It's like an insult saying a very nasty person, a literal, like, And I guess what I really want to say is, it's interesting, people talk about being colorblind and something. Look, there's no biological basis on race. It has no real basis in the sort of chemical or physical reality. What black people have in common historically is how they've been treated by white people. That's it. So when people talk about being colorblind, it's like, look, of course it'd be wonderful to be colorblind, but the thing is, my experience isn't the same.
Yeah.
So actually, it's just a convenient thing to make the other person feel fine. It's like, if there was a baby crawling next to the railway lines, and you said we should look out for the babies, and somebody said, "Oh no, I just see people," that'd just be stupid. Like the babies, there's different experiences, there's different properties of different groups because of their situation, and I think compassion and space to hear is something that can bring us together, that can heal. Especially because of the type of music I make, I've noticed that over my life, most of my friends are, of course, white or from a different background to myself, because, and actually I'd get to gigs and they're like, and they're playing metal rock and whatever, and they're like, "Oh, it's great. I assumed you'd like black music." And I was thinking, this is black music.
Yeah.
Rock and roll came from, it's rooted in
like
never mind that.
I play the blue. I play a lot of blues stuff, and I know where that comes from.
Yeah.
And I know that was the foundation for not only like rock music, but also hip hop, like the beat, the tempo, the aggravation. Blues music is quite at the root of a lot of current popular music, and I'm aware of that. And my Skip James, my Robert Johnsons, Fred McDowell's, all those guys, absolutely love all that, and I pay a lot of homage to that. But it's funny the way some people think. I had a blues club in Birmingham. I won't say their name, but they literally basically told me that my style of blues was, without actually saying too black, but they said, and it was like, it's not sort of straight up 12-bar blues enough. And so I sort of messaged back, went, "What, white guy blues, you mean?" And they was like, and they were like, "Yeah, that's sort of what we're saying, yes." It was like, "Oh, right, okay."
I think I just want to be clear that, of course, all the messages in my music are always about rising above and transcending and trying to find a way through that's positive. And, I'm not along with these people who are about divide and conquer and, defining myself by an identity so that I am different, whatever. What my message really is really seeing people, and it comes back to this mental health. It doesn't matter what are the reasons why people are in this situation, like where their background is. It because of how they've been treated? Like a lot of people with mental health problems, it can come from the broken families or having been abused, and it, all sorts of assets. But if we see the people and we don't deny their history, the history of their personal history, but also their familial, their cultural history, and we accept that as part of the conversations and the way we interact with them, then that's a way through. That's a way through to somewhere better. Like, I see you and I acknowledge and recognize the things that you've had to go through to be you. It's not about me being better or worse. It's to recognize, then I've, some of my female friends who are artists, and they tell me the stories of how they've been treated in venues, you know, or by other artists who sort of, you know, presume they can't play drums or some ridiculous thing. And it's for me to just recognize and hear that without me trying to defend or, you know, explain or justify or say it was their fault somehow or whatever. And I think it also, that's what it comes down to, mental health. Like, there are many reasons why a lot of us are having a hard time living in these urbanized, I mean, there's a big theory that, I mean, we're just not designed to be in this densely populated thing. There's no nature. I mean, actually, Brennan's quite green, but, you know, you're spending so much time in four walls, whatever. Of course it does some harm. So we need to give each other room to recognize that and to listen to each other. And that's a big part of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take my own medicine, because it's much easier to say it, of course, and see it in others. And of course, being a musician like you, of course it all comes out in that way. I mean, it's no coincidence that the music of things like the Union Black sounds like that, because, I mean, how can you not scream?
Yeah.
You know, even if it's instrumental.
It's like getting a lot out through music. I mean, this is why this whole Lost album's happened, is because I wanted to give back music. I'm bipolar, and music has been so good to me, and it's like so good for like getting everything out there. So this was my sort of way to give back to something that's really helped my mental health, you know, giving back. And like you say, like, yeah, just playing a big chunky loud riff. Sometimes like you've had a fucking shit day and you just like get the guitar out and you just, oh yeah, you rip into it and you're like, oh, that feels better.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably was, you know me from back in the Among the Missing days, and like I used to, you know, be pretty wild, and I'm screaming and shouting. I'd be so zen after those shows.
Yeah.
I got so much out.
Yeah. I think also I'll just add that I guess one of the things, I did a solo project which was kind of electronic but playing heavy distorted bass over it, called The Refuge, and that was I spent a lot of time playing some street gigs when I first got to Berlin, like a couple of years ago. And one of the things that I was trying to do there was, it was using the seed of bipolar actually as an inspiration, manic depression and the old terminology. And I was really interested in just exploring that, like just having an outlet. I'd literally lock myself in my studio and play 10-hour gigs for myself. Like, you know, and it's exactly what you're talking about. Like, it's one of the reasons I moved, because I thought I was fed up of like having the wheel. Like, I always felt like it's like I've got to justify myself. Right, this year I'm doing a tour, then I'm doing an album, but it's like I thought I might as well be working in a factory. Like, it's like, what's the next thing? It's nothing against it, but what if I'm not? Like, would I not be an artist if I just didn't have a mission of putting out an album this year or doing it? So I just said, you know what? No mission. I'm just going to do music, whatever. And I ended up just going into the studio at like 10 and playing till 6 a.m., going absolutely mental, trying to find this journey, just saying, what does manic depression, bipolar mean? It wasn't about even what am I experienced. I mean, I definitely have issues with depression. You could call me manic, but I don't think I'm not sort of exactly in that mode. But it was more about how do I interact with that topic, and how do I have a really pure output? Like, because it's not to try and make an album, it's not to try and do a tour. In fact, it's for nobody else, literally. It's so pure. Of course, in the end, I did end up doing some stuff on the street and doing a couple of gigs and whatever, but it was a really different experience to have no other objective than just to put it out. And that's led to things like the Union Black, funny enough, because I learned so much about myself and whatever. It's totally different music in a way, but you learn about yourself. And also,
we always thought about that actually, that like you and me, I feel very similar in some respects there, in that like you'd probably still make all this music without, even if nobody was listening. I mean,
nobody is listening.
Sometimes it feels like that for sure. But yeah, no, I remember, I mean, Lost started out as me just bored on buses, writing buses and planes and trains and stuff on tour, just writing some stuff on my iPad, really not for anybody else. And I think that sort of, I think you're definitely of that sort of feeling as well. It's like, you do it because you do it. The fact that we've done it for a living is unbelievable, and it's really awesome that we get to follow our dreams. But yeah, and it's certainly helped with my mental health, because the 9 to 5 just doesn't work for me. It's never been like the regularity, in fact, like you were saying, never really works in my head. In fact, that I'm still quite random. Somebody was asking about, you know, music practicing this week, and I was like, I have no schedule. I don't go, all right, we're doing the set now, we're doing this, or I'm working on this song. Because I'm solo, I'm just like, oh, I'll get the guitar out and I might just achieve absolutely nothing for like hours and just like doodle with riffs around and go, oh, that's and I've been learning new chords in the few weeks just because, you know. So yeah, it's all very helpful for the brain, I find personally.
No, absolutely. And one of the things I found is now in today's world, it's a lot about having an immediate reaction. Like, we've got a million emails coming in, we've got the Instagram, you've got whatever. And I think it's really important for creative people to have space and time, like, for instance, to be bored.
Yeah.
Like, creativity comes out, like, you know, just switch it off. Just have a time when you're, like you said, just learn chords. We're doing, like, not have a particular point. There's always got to be a point to something at the moment. Like, I've always got to have an opinion. I've always got to, and it's like, no, you don't. Like, I mean, one of the funniest things is, like, I'm old school in the sense, like, but I'm terrible at my social media, because, to be honest, I'd rather be playing. Like, if I've actually got time to be sitting there scrolling something, I'm thinking to myself, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, I could have learned 2 scales while I was doing this. Like, and you know, it's funny because, as I said, like, if I was more of this extrovert, I'd be much more popular, but I'd see it to be much more pointless, you know? Like, I'm really inspired, to be honest, of a lot of the artists who, in their own time, were not even recognized. And actually, sometimes you find these anonymous paintings and nobody knew them and who did them, but it doesn't make it less brilliant. And all the people who were famous at the time, it turns out, are totally forgettable. You know?
Yeah.
And actually, I'd rather find stuff that's meaningful to me and a small number of people. Like, I'd rather be absolutely connect with a tiny group of people than to be on the also playlist of millions.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for giving your time for this. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Anté. You're amazing. I love your work. I love your music, and I hope we can collaborate again some point if you ever want me to be on.
Me too. I'd love to do that. Yeah.
You're one of my favourites, definitely, from all the people.
tells all the guys this.
I've met so many folks in Among the Missing, and it was like just your warmth and like accepting me in. I mean, obviously, our mutual friend is Kev, who was in Among the Missing with me, and Kev is one of the sweetest human beings I've ever met. Absolutely love. So any friend of Kev was always going to be a friend of mine. But no, thank you so much for your time on this, and thank you for being on Lost as well. It's, as I say, it really makes that song Heart just pop. It just, like, everything kind of
absolute honor. Absolute honor. Always really happy. I'm really glad you're happy with it, and I'm so happy that I'm really looking forward to hearing the mastered final thing.
Yeah, it's already out, all mastered, and yeah, it's at the pressing plant. It's on CD and download. Unfortunately, I can't do it on vinyl because we're giving all the money, obviously, to charity. Yeah. Like, literally, me and Ian at the record label have paid for the pressing of the CD. That's come out of our own pocket. So every sale goes to the charities, because I really want to help them out. But thank you so much. I'll say ta-ra for now, and then there we go.
There we go. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope this was useful and interesting. Take care. Best of luck with the release. Looking forward to it.
Hi, so this is Leevil, the awesome Leevil, who appears on the song Insomnia. I've known Leevil for very many years. I met him at Alienistic Studios in Bethnal Green, where my old band Among the Missing used to practice. And I believe the first time I ever saw you play was Gary Vanderhorn's birthday party. And it'd been like all sort of fairly metal. And then Leevil comes up in a wrestling mask and with some synthesizers and just did this thing that I can only describe as somewhere between black metal and hip hop. I think it's like yeah, it's somewhere between black metal and hip hop. I don't know if there is a genre called something like that, but it was brilliant, and I was just like really taken by it. What you did, and our friendship from the studio seemed to grow from that. And I mean, I think you were pretty much always there at that time, so it was always like good to hang out and chat and stuff. But yeah, you appear on Insomnia, and I just kind of want to ask, you know, your personal experiences as to mental health issues, and any, you know, personal or impersonal feelings, and anything you want to really say. So just the floor is yours. Hello.
Thanks, Tim. Firstly, have you got me?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's going a bit glitchy, but we'll work through it, man. Yeah. So first, listen through the songs that you lined up for the record. Funny enough, I didn't notice the name of the track at first, but it was my favourite out of all of them. So you know, that was a pretty good reason to kind of choose it. I thought, right, pick the one I like the most, and I like that. I like that one particularly, and could kind of felt that I could maybe, you know, could carry it off.
I will let you into a little secret. That track, actually, when it was originally written, like the music was quite funny. That one was called 9 Inch Snails.
I love the I'll take it, it's guitar at the end that it's kind of almost kind of snakes in and out.
Yeah, that's in fact this guy.
Yeah, but almost kind of violin-y as well. Sort of, don't know, almost reminded me of like Amon Duel or something. And
that would be the Ebo, yeah, the Ebo stuff, yeah, at the end. Yes, I see you.
Yeah, and loved the track. Then when I realised it was called Insomnia, it was like, yes, definitely. In terms of relevance, because my wife suffers from it quite badly. Since having kids, especially, because you instinctively are up through the night, you know, kind of running backwards and forwards and this, that and the other, and all of the other pressures and kind of things in life, you know, it can, I know for a lot of parents, kind of, they have that kind of an experience with it. And funnily enough, right now, I've had no sleep because currently, well, as you know, Tim, currently carrying the COVID round with me. So I had quite an achy night, but it's kind of, you know, it's preparation for today's interview, you know.
I'll get well soon, dude.
I need to, you know, I've got to live it a bit, and you know, last night was a good night to not have any sleep.
Yeah,
but I did watch Hollywood Chainsaw, which was quite.
Yeah, I get pretty bad insomnia. So like Friday night, I was pretty tired after doing some filming, but then I couldn't sleep, so I ended up watching Deadwood until like 3 a.m. and trying to drink it off, and I don't think that's the best idea sometimes.
No, totally.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, a lot of the subjects on the album are personally related. Some aren't. I mean, some are sort of obviously impersonal things about mental health. Sometimes they're about things that, like, people I've met who I've spent time with. For instance, the one about schizophrenia. I won't say the guy's name, but I toured with a band who their bass player had schizophrenia, and he was such a nice guy, but I guess it kind of freaks people out a little bit sometimes, because, you know, what they're doing, there's like muttering to themselves. And I just spent a bit of time with him, and I'm just like got to know him, and I think that was kind of one of the, he said it was like one of the nicest things. You know, people just often are kind of scared of him, wherefore I wasn't scared of him at all. He was just a really nice guy, and he loved his music, and he like introduced me to a few bands that I'd never heard of, and we were just chatting about, like, although his band are kind of country, he was like dead into his metal and stuff, so we were like proper like jamming away about sort of metal stuff. So yeah, I mean, do you have any personal or impersonal stories about mental health issues?
Sure.
You know, people you know, maybe?
Sure. Well, firstly, talking about the schizophrenia thing, because I'm an estate caretaker. I live on site, so I have to I kind of end up getting, I'm responsible for a lot of stuff that, that occurs, or, from a health and safety perspective and things like that. And a few years ago, actually, there was a young guy that had popped up on the estate. Couldn't really work out that he didn't really seem to be anyone's friend in particular. It's sometimes go and hang out with some of the younger guys, but he wasn't. You could just tell, by the body language, that he weren't a part of their group. But he'd kind of come and try and latch on, and the guy'd be walking around in all weathers, kind of a bit like your friend, he'd be talking to himself, and kind of he'd be out in the rain, kind of waving his arms around in the air, and freaked me out at first, and I'm like, shit, I can deal with this guy at some point, because he's, because it's just the way it is. You end up having to go and see what's happening. And end up talking to this young lad, and oh my God, what a sweetheart, and he was just, he kind of did get in and out of trouble, and God knows where he is now. I haven't seen him for a long time, but yeah, it's the whole thing of going back to what you said, not judging a book by its cover, and it's like,
getting to know people and giving people the time of day can really help, definitely.
Totally. On the surface, if someone's acting strangely to you, that doesn't necessarily make them a threat, or make them, someone to be treated with any kind of consternation, because they're, try and talk to them, and in this guy's case, and again, I won't say his name, but what a lovely guy. But he scared the shit out of everybody, including the kids. And it weren't until one of them said, I kind of asked one of the guys, I was like, what's going on with this fella? And he said, go and talk to him. Just go and talk to him, and and you realise, he's a nice guy. And it opened my eyes. It opened my eyes, definitely. But I mean, with regards to the mental health thing, this year especially has kind of been more taxing for people, for obvious reasons.
Yeah. I mean, being stuck indoors is quite hard.
If you already have issues and you're already going through problems, it's, there's people people I know. One of my neighbours recently went through, you know, quite a bad time. And again, because of a tragedy that befell them at this time of year, you know, as Christmas approaches and stuff, it always hits him hard. And because of the nature of the year being the way it was, it just made it worse, and things came to a head. And I think there's a lot of that happening at the moment with people. So personally, you know, from my experience, because I'm, you know, I feel I'm pretty focused on stuff at the moment, feeling pretty positive and pretty headstrong. What people in that position need to remember is that maybe to try and, you know, just look out for others, because there's a lot of people going through shit at the moment, and you know, just to check in on people, as many people as you can, you know, even for a small chit chat, or even just to like something they put on Facebook or whatever, just little things. But if you can just give someone a bit of positivity, then do it. And
that's exactly it, isn't it? It's like, yeah, remember, and if you are that person that feels like you're all alone, maybe you're shut away in your house on your own, you're not alone. Your friends, especially, you know, although we've all been locked in, it's a time in current technology that we've got this sort of technology where we can talk to each other via video call or you know, telephones or whatever. You know, this is like, if this had happened in the 90s, you know, we wouldn't have been able to see each other on the things and social media, etc. So, you know, your friends are always there. Never feel alone, sort of thing. That's kind of a big message of what I'm trying to get across, is like, if you are feeling lost, which is why the album is called Lost, you're not alone. Thank you so much, Lee, for really, this has been really awesome, really, really helpful as well. I love your positive attitude. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of the many things that I'm very drawn to you as a person, but also your music and your artistic ideas, and I'm really pleased you're part of the Real Records family now as well. I couldn't have thought of a better home for you. So really, it's amazing knowing you, and we'll do some more music together, definitely, for sure. But yeah, I always love seeing you, and thank you so much for your time. I'm gonna
big love to you, Tim, and man, you've inspired me for years. You're a road warrior. I've said that before, and you are, man. I love that. You're free. And at the once this crap clears, man,
we'll hang out again, dude.
So thank you very much for watching this video for the Lost album launch. I hope some of those discussions were informative. I hope that everybody is doing okay, staying safe, staying well. If there's any questions raised, I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. I'm going to be in the comments still for a while, and on the private messages if you have anything you don't want to discuss in public. Thank you so much to everybody who's bought the album Lost. It's really amazing of you to do that. Thank you so much to everybody who supported me as well with my mental health issues. There's so many of you that have helped me over the years. And also, if you do have mental health issues and you're too scared to come forward sometimes, it's okay, but you have friends out there. Remember, you're never alone, you're never lost. Be excellent to each other, stay safe, and I'll see you all again soon. Enjoy the video for Lost.
I was lost, but never found. Sometimes I feel like I should be 6 feet underground. I should be underground. Yeah, I was lost, should be 6 feet underground. Yeah, I was lost. Yeah, I was lost. I'm the evil in your eye. I'm not what you expect from tonight. My symptoms, they cannot test. I'm the fire within your soul. 'Cause I was lost, but never found. Sometimes I feel like I should be 6 feet underground. Yeah, I was lost, but never found. Sometimes I feel like I should be 6 feet underground.
I should be underground.
Yeah, I was lost. 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 Never found. Yeah, I was lost, but never found. The lights are on, but no one's home. I'm underneath, hiding from the naked eye. There is more to me than you will ever see. There's more to me than just you and me. Yeah, I was lost, but never found. Yeah, I was lost, but never found.